Alexa, turn on studio. Good day, everybody. Welcome in. It is time for another Hoopsville because that's what we do. It's that time of year. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Welcome in. We got a full show today and another show later tonight. Yeah, 2 shows in one day. Yeah, we do that with the top 25, right? Well, the second show today is a little bit more complex. It's our top 16s show. We will have both committee chairs on the show. We will have Scott Peterson and Matt Snyder on the show, breaking down the top 16s. So much to talk about on that show. We're going to talk about bid thieves, conferences to watch, teams that could move in and out of the top 16, 8, or 4, which is going to have certainly some big implications. And again, that exclusive conversation with the committee chairs. You get to ask questions. We're still requesting them. If you've got any, email us hoopsville@d3sports.com. That's hoopsville@d3sports.com. We'll try and get those questions answered here to the committee chairs. They'll get them to us sooner rather than later. No guarantees we can get them asked. A lot of times, some of the questions we've gotten, we're going to be asking anyway, so we may not form it up, as it were, but we'll get them to them. So please send your questions along, and we will do our best. We'll keep reminding you of this as well. Reminder to interact with us. Email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. You can interact with us on socials, Facebook, Twitter, X, etc., whatever you want to call your things. We got lots out there. We've got our X page up and running. We're keeping track of the YouTube page, where Dice Canton says, "Hi, Dave. What time is the deadline to email questions to the D3 National Committee Chair today?" I would say, worst case, the door is open. Tucker has heard me go on the air, so the door is now open. We're going to probably close that because there's some stuff in the background I don't need out there. Hey, listen, honestly, you could ask the question up until showtime, and we could get in. It may not be formatted, right? I may not get a full screen. Man, I need a haircut. May not get a full screen made for it the later we get. In show, I'll be honest, it's going to start getting tough. I will try and keep track of things, but at that point, when we're talking to them, we're going to be kind of formatted up with what we're going to be asking and all that. And I may not be able to pay attention to emails as hyper-focused as I'd like to be. So I would say by mid to late afternoon, Dice Canton, that would be the best. Again, that question from Dice Canton came in on our live YouTube page. You can follow us there. Please do so. We would love to have you there. We'll answer questions best we can there today as well, and tonight. Again, with Scott Peterson and Matt Snyder. I'm hoping the three of us has really worked to try and give you the best information we can without going into the weeds. And we'll talk about that later tonight a little bit. There's plenty to talk about on this show. Let's talk first about who's going to be on it. We're going to have the St. Joe's on the show, the GNAC showdown in men's basketball. We're going to have St. Joseph College of Maine, University of St. Joseph's. So it's St. Joseph College of Maine, University of St. Joseph's of Connecticut. Men's basketball coach Tyler Ackerley and Glenn Miller on the show. Both teams are undefeated in conference play. Both teams play on Saturday. Winner takes the regular season crown. Big game. So we bring in both of them on the show to talk about it at the same time. Looking forward to that conversation. Then we'll head out to Wisconsin to talk more about the WIAC-iness of the WIAC. Stevens Point will be our guest. Kent Dernbach's squad licking their wounds a little bit. Lost to Whitewater last night. They've lost 2 of their last 3. River Falls and Whitewater got a win over La Crosse in the middle there. Have a game against Oshkosh coming up. Respect the heck out of Kent. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but we're sticking with Stevens Point and WIAC because I think maybe this tells the best story of just how wild this WIAC has been. Whitewater now on top of the conference at 9-4 in conference play. Then we'll pivot to women's basketball. Transylvania and Nazareth are both locks in their conference tournaments. They've locked them up. They're number 1 seeds. They're in the tournaments, et cetera, but they've still got some work to do to assure themselves some March play. So as a result, we'll talk to both of those head coaches. Hannah Klein from Transylvania, Kelly Dunn-Romig from Nazareth will join us to talk about their programs. That's all coming up on this show. Conference tournaments are just started in a couple of places. The GNAC starts tonight. I think the UEC started on Wednesday. And Other conferences will get started this weekend. Before we get into some of the other news and notes today, let's take a quick look at really how the NESCAC, for example, is going to shape up, because it's going to look a little bit different this year.
The quarterfinals for the NESCAC tournament start this Saturday, and there will be one team missing who's always been there, and that's Williams College. For the first time since the conference began league play with standings in 2001, the Eafs did not make the tournament. They were 2 wins from being an 8th seed, which was just unusual. The biggest thing for them, it was basically a team that brought most everybody of all their scorers back, except their leading scorer from last year, Alex Lee, blew out his knee in the first game, was gone. That's 13 points a game, and they couldn't make that up. So they're on the outside looking in. The rest of NESCAC, it's going to be a fascinating tournament, because you had to do, of the 8 teams, there were 3 ties that needed to be broken. There was a tie at the number 1 seed between Wesleyan and Tufts, and Wesleyan beat Tufts, so the Cardinals have the number 1 seed. And then Tufts and Trinity were tied at 8-2. And Tufts got the 2 seed, Trinity got the 3rd seed, Wesleyan, the number 1 seed. I misread my notes. Then you have the 7 and 8 seeds of Colby and Connecticut College tying, and we needed a breakdown there, along with Amherst and Bates at 4-5. They both finished 5-5, so they had to have a tiebreaker. It looks like that the NESCAC tournament this year is as wide open as it was a couple of years ago, when Williams was a number 1 seed, because 4 teams finished with 7-3 records, and they had to get down to like the 4th tiebreaker to set up the seeds.
Howard Herman with the report for us. Appreciate his efforts there. He is the writer from the Berkshire Eagle. We had him on the Top 25 show this past Monday, so he gave us a quick preview of the NESCAC. Williams not in it. Fascinating, right? Williams just not been on our radar all season long. And then, of course, when you play this funky 1 game only, and we'll talk about in the GNAC, you run into some of these issues where you have tiebreakers. Of course, you have tiebreakers across the board, which will be my 2 cents at the end of the show. I'm a little frustrated with how we determine some of the tiebreakers. I feel like I'm not getting into it now. Well, we'll talk about it at the end of the show. You're probably sitting here going, Dave, why haven't you talked about big news and notes? Well, I wanted to end the segment with the big news and notes. First and foremost, number 1, Montclair State will not become the first team in that conference's history to go undefeated since 1979-80 season, because second placed TCNJ knocked them off last night on the road. Already some questions about who will be the new number 1. I'll be honest, we're going to have to see how the week and the weekend plays out, but just because Montclair lost doesn't mean I think a lot of voters will replace him as number 1. We didn't expect Montclair to get through it. Now, it also might be just an all abandonment of the ship, too. We'll see. But Montclair gets knocked off, so we have no undefeateds left in men's basketball. In Division 3, we should point out, there are 2, I believe, still in the entirety of the NCAA, 1 in Division 1 and 1 in Division 2, if memory serves. Congrats to TCNJ. They only lost by 4 at Montclair earlier this season, so some people were like, this is a stunning result. It's not stunning. First off, TCNJ played them tight. Second of all, TCNJ was expected to be in the race. It was a little bit surprising Montclair had gotten this far undefeated. Last game of the season, big target on their back. Conference tournament coming up. TCNJ wanting to make a statement. And none of us really expecting anybody to go undefeated in that conference. Like I said, nobody has done it since the 1979-80 season, and they didn't even have 10 teams at the time. And it wasn't even the NJAC at the time. It had a different name, New Jersey State Athletic Conference or something. So congratulations, TCNJ, knocking off the number 1 and undefeated team. We have so that storyline's gone for March. We're not going to be talking about whether anybody can win the entire thing. I think the last time we had an undefeated team get to the title game was Benedictine. What was that, 2013? No, I don't think it was 20. I don't remember what year it was. It's all blurring together. I'll look it up. Easy to find at d3hoops.com. But anyway, so that storyline's gone, and we can focus just on everything else. Montclair's into the tournament. We're not worried about that, but we'll see what happens with them. Might be the wrong timing because they may now go through the NJAC and absolutely lay waste to everybody, which will be tough because, as we'll talk about tonight, NJAC's one of those conferences where it looks like only one bid unless there's a major upset. Also, some news and notes. Wentworth women's basketball shut their season down a tad early. They had from what I can tell, they had senior day and then called the season off. I'm quickly looking at my new notes here. We reached out to both the school and the conference office because they had a conference game scheduled for Tuesday that turned into a forfeit. The conference office got back to us. Thank you, Brett Bosley, who says Wentworth forfeited the rest of their season due to health and safety concerns related to roster size. So University of New England was assessed a win for the game coming up on Saturday, he says, based on our policy. I think that was a Tuesday game, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was a Tuesday game. So Tuesday the 17th was the game against UNE. That was marked a forfeit for, obviously, conference standings-wise. Remember, this is the Wentworth program whose women's coach took over the men's program last year. The men's program in that case had an administrative issue with its entire coaching staff. They got later fired at some point in the offseason, and the school tried to handle this quietly. We have reached out to the school in both these cases, never heard back. Not that that's all that helpful to avoid rumor and all of that. On the women's side, at least the conference has gotten back to us telling us that it was a health and safety thing, which we figured. But here's the trick of this, okay? So the last game on Saturday for Wentworth was originally scheduled against New England College versus they were playing on Tuesday, University of New England. It's a little confusing. And, of course, they're in the Conference of New England. It's a little wacky this week. So they were playing Tuesday in conference play against New England College. I'm sorry, against University. See, even I'm getting confused. Let me try. Reset. Tuesday's game, they were playing University of New England. That was the schedule. That game got turned into a forfeit. Saturday, Wentworth was scheduled to play New England College in non-conference play. New England College had to scramble because that was their scheduled senior day. So now they have no game. NEC was able to pick up Leslie. I don't know the particulars behind it, but tip of the hat to those two programs to make sure NEC got its senior day on Saturday. I get why Wentworth decided, for health and safety, we got to be careful here, but I'm going to be honest, unfortunate timing. So there's that news and notes, and I'm sure there's more that we will get to, but believe it or not, Pitt Bradford, we got word last night, has forfeited almost the entire second half of their season win-wise for an ineligible player. We're still trying to dive into the bottom of it, unless I've missed an update, admittedly, because I think a couple of the wins are counting because I think they figured it out and pulled the player. But we're still figuring that out. So that changed the AMCC standings head over heels. So Bradford, who was in the race, and I think just beat Greensburg the other day, who was in the race, but I think they pulled the player for the Greensburg game. This is the wackiness of it all. At one point, we saw that game forfeited, then we saw it return to a regular result. Anyway, ineligible player in the second half of the season. And that has cost Bradford a whole mess of games and postseason hopes. So there's that going on, too. A little bit of wackiness at the end of the season. And speaking of wackiness, we got to get moving because we got to talk to the St. Joe's and then the Stevens Points and then Transylvania's and then the Nazareths. Lots to talk about. Hope you're enjoying the show. Dice Can says about the Wentworth women's basketball situation, New England College had to scramble to find a replacement on Saturday's game to replace Wentworth. As I said, again, I get the reason. It's just unfortunate the timing. Maybe you should be giving that school a little bit more heads up. It was senior day. And that's Tucker's now opened the door in the other direction to leave. Are you coming or going, sir? It's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. And we got to fix the timing of things. We'll take a break. When we come back, we head up to New England, talk about the GNAC showdown that is coming on Saturday in men's basketball play against the two St. Joes. Their coaches join us to talk about it. Any of your questions as well, join me online. You can also support our show and our efforts at buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville. Top 25 ballot's been ready since Monday night. I keep forgetting to hit publish. I'll do so somewhere during the show, and members can read my ballot from this week's Top 25. Thanks for joining us. Big show ahead. Big show later tonight as well. Back with more after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us. All of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. By the way, I can't reach them right now. We got a couple more deliveries to the Hoopsville studios that we've got to open, unpack. Remember, these videos that we do, we unpack what we're given there for your live reaction. You get to see me react to the cool stuff that you've been sent. And we've got now a bunch of new uniforms. So we're going to work. It's not going to happen by tonight's show, but I hope by Monday's show, we can have a whole new look of the uniforms behind us. I got a little bit of time. I'm literally working every single day, I think, for the next 2 weeks, but I think we have some time to do that. You got questions for us? Email us or join us on the live stream. However you'd like to join us, we'll certainly take the conversation. Harvey says, if Yeshiva were to win the Skyline, what are some possible teams that they can play against, and would they be a bracket you would guess? Listen, that's wide open. Yeshiva's in a place you can send them anywhere. I'll get back to that, Harvey. Let me chew on that just a wee bit more. But honestly, I think Yeshiva's the type of foil you could send down into the Mid-Atlantic easily, or a team. I know Randolph-Macon's a repeat in that sense, but you could send them to New England. I think there's a couple of teams in New England worth sending them to as well. Speaking of New England, the GNAC men's basketball tournament needs to be decided, and who's going to be hosting that as the top seed. Of course, the way they've got it set up, it's going to take a final game to figure it out. 2 11-0 teams, both named St. Joe, one with an apostrophe S, are going to face off this weekend to determine that number 1 seed. St. Joseph's College in Maine, the Monks, and University St. Joseph's in Connecticut, the Blue Jays, will do battle. And this gives me that dumb idea going, hey, let's talk to both of them about it, because I can't make a choice. Joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is said both coaches. It's Tyler Ackley from the Monks, and it is Glenn Miller from the Blue Jays, if memory serves. Ackley's first time. Glenn, we've had you on for a while, so out of deference, Tyler, we're going to start with Glenn. Glenn, good to see you. Hope all is well.
Good to see you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Tyler, now we'll defer to you. Welcome to the show and congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Listen, this is just wild. When I looked at the standings, I'm like, this can't be real. Not only just because of the quirkiness of the schedule, you guys basically play once through the conference, that you haven't faced each other. You're both undefeated, and you're both St. Joe's, which is just kind of funny in my sense. Really unique opportunity, but also a lot of pressure for the final game of the regular season to determine who gets to host. Tyler, a little bit of a new situation for you guys, though a team that Ryan Scott has been loving since day one, obviously coming off a good season last year. What's the expectation?
Yeah, we returned a lot of guys, so we certainly had high hopes for what this group can become this year. Unfortunately, I think, in sports, sometimes injuries kind of settle in. So we had some pretty key injuries, big injuries for us early in the year. We at points were without our 4 leading returning scorers from last year. And similar to Coach Miller, I really believe in going out and challenging our group early in the year in the non-conference. So, having to do that without a lot of what made us really good last year presented some challenges for us, but certainly have gotten most of those guys back and, started to build towards obviously a good conference run here. But, I love my group, excited about where we can kind of get to, and been chasing Coach Miller down since I got in the league. So, we're definitely excited about the matchup and have a lot of respect for Coach and what he's built and what they've done there. So it's definitely been a good year so far, and hopefully we can finish this thing strong.
And turning over to you, Glenn. Yeah, you guys we'll talk a little bit later about how the GNAC has evolved, but for a number of years now, you guys have been somewhat the class of the conference. Just 2 losses in conference play since COVID. Actually, even before that. This is a unique scenario where it's coming down to the end a little bit for you guys. You usually put this away already.
Yeah, well, St. Joe's is a very, very well-coached team, and that they run a great system. And Tyler, as 4 years ago, I think 4 years ago, we played Tyler for the first time, and they were leading 40-38 at halftime, and we ended up winning 84-72. And I said, you're a well-coached team. You're going to build a program here, and he certainly has. He's got more athletic players on the floor, and in time, and they're a very, very good ball club.
Glenn, you kind of had the same situation as Tyler early in the season, took some lumps. Obviously a team that's kind of retooling a little bit, but you also went and challenged yourselves. You played Trinity, Connecticut to within 4. Bowdoin tripped you up by 1, and you played Montclair State, who just lost for the first time and lost by 5. So you've had those challenges, but once it hit the new year, you guys have been running pretty well.
Yeah, once we established ourselves as one of the premier teams in the GNAC, we wanted to go out and challenge ourselves at a conference. We had a large bid 3 years ago, and you don't get a large bid unless you play very good teams and have success. So that's been our motto with our out of conference scheduling. We're going to play the best teams we can at a conference, and since we've been playing new MAC teams, we're 8-1. NESCAC teams were 6-6. So yes, we lost a few one possession game for Trinity and Montclair State, and early in the year, and had we won a few of those games, we would be better spot for a large bid.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting dynamic. And I guess, Tyler, to some degree, you guys are in that same boat as you alluded to earlier, 24-5 last year. You make the tournament and beat LaSalle and then gave Redlands a pretty good game in the second round. The expectations were high, and you guys got dinged up for a 5-point loss in overtime to NYU. WPI got you guys, Nichols, etc. How do you keep, Tyler, that from derailing what was supposedly going to be a promising season going into conference play? Because you could have your heads down and just kind of trudge along.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty fortunate to have the group we do. A lot of these guys grew up playing together. So, when adversity hits, they don't really break apart. We kind of come together closer. So I think for us, we always knew we were going to get those guys back, which obviously was an important part for us. But it's difficult when you have high aspirations. I think we were sitting there at 26th or 27th when that first poll came out. And I think for, our group, it's been a building process, especially with a lot of the older guys that, we've been trying to chase this thing down since they showed up. And that was always the goal, was to get in the national conversation. Kind of like Coach Miller said, you want to get, in the conversation at the top of the league. And then obviously you want to, shoot for a little higher aspirations there. And I was very fortunate as an assistant at both Nebraska Wesleyan and Colby College that we were able to get into the national stage. And once you've kind of experienced that, you want to make sure that you end up somewhere where, that's the ceiling where you can kind of get into that conversation. So that buildup obviously was something we were looking forward to, but it was definitely a challenge. We led most of the game at NYU. We were up 7 with 2 minutes left in overtime and kind of let that one slip away. Same thing with WPI. We led most of that game on the road without, those 4 guys, and unfortunately let that one go. And, those were learning moments for us, especially for some of the guys that were thrusted into bigger roles. We have a first-year guard in Davis Mann who was basically leading the way for us at that point. And for him to go on the road and play some of the premier programs in the country and be able to establish himself was really huge for us as we've kind of led into the second part of this thing. But I think we always knew that adversity was going to hit at some point, and every year it does. So we wanted to make sure we were challenging ourselves, but we also didn't let it break us in that, and we learned from it. And I think, we've been able to carry those experiences with us into the conference season and kind of figure some things out.
Glenn, as I was saying, because of the size of the GNAC, you're basically playing once through everybody, and you've gotten to this point through 11 where it's undefeated, but you haven't played St. Joe's, Maine. You've got no barometer this season. You've got last season, and you've got tape. That's a bit of a unique opportunity coming into Saturday, because you have no ability of saying, hey, remember when we played them in January? Remember when we played them in December? How do you get them ready on the scouting side for a team you just haven't played?
Well, you definitely have to be prepared how to defend St. Joe's. They run a terrific system. Very hard to defend against. They're high-scoring team. They shoot threes. They back cut. They have a lot of good actions where they read and react. And we played them early in the season last year, probably before they were well oiled. as their season goes along, I think they execute better and better down the road at the end of the season. So, they play a version of basketball. When I used to coach in the Ivy League, the Princeton system, some form of the Princeton system, and so I'm very familiar with it. So hopefully our guys will be well prepared.
Tyler, to take the same question but put it on a different sense, you do have some common opponents. We mentioned NYU, for example. Can you lean on that and say, hey, when we played NYU, this happened. When they played, here's what happened. See the differences. This is how we need to prepare.
Yeah, I think anytime you're preparing for our Coach Miller team, I think similar to what he said, I think they run a great system. They do a really good job of executing. They play really hard. So yeah, I think anytime you have common opponents, you can kind of see how the difference is and what happened in those games. And I think one thing I always say about, Coach Miller and his teams are like, they don't, when adversity hits, like they don't waver. And it's something I really respect about them. And they've had a large, obviously you spoke to a large winning streak in the GNAC. And I think anyone that's ever done winning in their life, they can really respect a program that goes out there and does things like that. So I think, be able to pull from any common opponent would be huge for us. Preparing for them is as challenging as it gets. They run some really great stuff. Their guys are really talented. And then they have a winning pedigree. And I think that goes a long way. So when this, hopefully this game is close and competitive down the stretch. And when that happens, they're not going to waver. They expect to win just like our guys do. And I think it's obviously going to be a great matchup for us. But I definitely think you can pull from those games. But, this late in the year, I think you're trying to pick up any little thing you can to maybe give yourself the edge in the matchup.
I mean, they lost 2 games last year in conference play to the Blue Jays. You have to go back to their inaugural season in 18-19 to find any other loss in conference play. They were 5-6. And Glenn, really, to be honest, you guys had a subpar coach. This Jim Calhoun guy. I don't know, Glenn. I'm obviously things changed when you took over the program.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from Coach Calhoun. He's obviously a good friend of mine, and the gym is named after him, so you can't lose too many games in his gym.
It's
so
true.
Hopefully home court advantage throughout the playoffs. But your job is the winner of Saturday's game is the job is a quarter done. You have to beat good teams twice, no matter what. And it's hard to beat good teams twice.
Yeah, I mean, this game, which will be played, by the way, we should point out, in Maine. It'll be at St. Joe, Maine's campus at the Herod Alfond Arena. I swear there's about 10 Alfond arenas in Maine. They just throw money around for people to build arenas. It'll be in Standish. Kind of important here because, Glenn, they win. You're going to have to probably go back to Standish. You win. You get to force them to the best home court advantage in Division III.
Yeah, but again, your job is only half done. You got to get through other good teams in the league. Albertus and LaSalle could beat anybody in the league, and hopefully you don't get upset in the quarters. But you're going to have to beat a good team in the semifinals, and again, another good team. Regardless who wins Saturday, we have to beat St. Joe's twice, or they have to beat us twice. So that's really hard to do. A few years ago, when we got an at-large bid, we beat Albertus twice in a regular season. They came in and beat us in the final game. So it's very difficult, very difficult.
Oh, yeah. Remember that one well. And that's kind of where it's a nice transition, honestly. We'll talk about your teams individually here in just a moment. But this is you have to get through Albertus Magnus, who is 2 games back of you two at 9-2. Emmanuel LaSalle are both 7-4, 500 or better records. Dean's 5-6, but they're 15-9. Regis is 13-11. Like, a lot of these teams have had some pretty decent seasons this year. Tyler, you haven't been maybe in the conference as long, or maybe it's equal to Glenn. You've seen this conference evolve. You've been part of that evolvement of the GNAC. It used to be Albertus Magnus and everybody else. Then St. Joe's, Connecticut came along. Now it's yourselves, and some of these other teams are starting to get competitive.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, when the job opened up, one of the things that was a really big selling point for me and my interest in the job was actually the success that both Coach Miller and Coach Oliver have had at their programs. Because for me, I think I realized early on, like I said earlier, I wanted to be at a place where we could compete nationally. And Coach Miller at the time when I got the head job here was number one in the country. So I think, if they're willing to rank one team in our league number one, they're willing to rank anybody. You just have to get to that level. So that was important for me. And I think anytime you can challenge yourself in league and have two programs that are, consistently in the national picture, I think that's really good for the rest of the league because it gives us a benchmark. So if you want to be one of those teams, you got to go out there and compete against these guys year in and year out and find ways to either win the game or get yourself close to winning those things. And for me, I think it's been really important to have those two in the league and be able to see those guys every year. And, each year we've gotten a little bit better in the league and obviously culminating last year in us winning the whole thing. But yeah, the GNAC is tough. I think the upper echelon of the GNAC can really beat anyone. I think LaSalle's done a really good job, even though maybe their record's not as gaudy as this year. I think they went out and challenged themselves. And I think really the four of us have done a pretty good job of going out and trying to play the NESCACs, the NUMACs, and getting outside of the region a little bit too to challenge ourselves with like NYU and schools like that. So, I think it's great. I think anytime you can go out and compete, I always say like I would rather know we're good because we went out and beat good teams and we played good teams versus maybe scheduling a schedule where I could, get some built-in wins. And maybe we wouldn't be as good as our record says we are. So for me, that was really important. And I think, seeing the success that Coach Miller and Coach Oliver have had at Albertus and they've done it in a similar way, I think has been it's been really impactful for me as a young head coach.
Glenn, that's another side of this. I mean, there wasn't that long ago when I'm talking to Albertus Magnus and Coach Oliver is talking about, we're struggling to try and get some of these other conferences to take us seriously, take us on because there was, SOS and results versus regionally ranked and all of that jazz. You guys had maybe a little bit of trouble. Jim's name probably helped a bit in changing that equation, but now there's a bunch of you who are playing NESCACs and NUMACs and UAA type teams. That evolution has helped this conference as well.
Yeah, no, if I could schedule all out of conference games versus NUMAC and NESCAC teams, I would. St. Joe's, Maine, us would finish in the upper echelon of these conferences. I have no doubt that if we were in those conferences, we've had a great deal of success.
Glenn, let me tell me about your team. I'm probably going to get some of these names wrong because I did go over them and then I'm just blanking as I look at them. But you got four guys in double figures. Lentz Eltonor leading the way, 16.5 points a game, shoots 47% from the floor. Then two guys who shoot 50 or better percent at 12.7 and 12 points a game in Feldrepe and Figueroa. Did I say them there? I hope.
Yes.
Wow. Yes. I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket. And quick, Tanksley Jr. at 10.8. That core group's obviously important, but you play a lot of players.
Yeah, no stars, no apparent stars, but a lot of good players. And we have great team chemistry and great work ethic. These guys are really close. Unlike last year's group, we had a little problem in last year's group. This group is dynamite. I really, really enjoyed coaching this team. Win or lose, they come to play every day, come to practice, work hard, and it's a fun group to coach. But no stars.
And that can make for a team to be dangerous, especially when you're trying to defensively match up against them. Tyler, on your side, you also have kind of a core four, though they stand out a little bit more on the stat sheet. I'm going to get this wrong, but we'll try it. Remigio Wani?
That's good.
Holy. I'm going to get that lottery. 22.5 points a game. He also shoots 49%. John Paul Frazier, by the way, great name. Just outstanding. 15.9 points a game at 46%. Wani Donato at 15.5 and 14.5 for Davis Mann. And intermixed in that were guys you talked about who are injured, Wani and Frazier. Wani's only played 18 games. Frazier's only played 20. But again, it's that core four. Wani stands out a little bit more.
Yeah, and we're actually, it probably doesn't pop on the stat sheet right now, but Savano Ishmael was the rookie of the year last year and was an 18-point per game scorer and has obviously you can see there on the stats has missed a large part of this year and is still kind of trying to work his way back. And those guys definitely bring a balanced attack. A lot of them have grown up playing together. A lot of them come from the same AAU program, so we are uniquely close. I think, like Coach Miller said, very fortunate to have a group that they show up and do things the right way, and they, they're happy for each other's success, which I think obviously, when you're coaching college sports long enough, you realize that that's not the case every year. And even though you can return a lot, that doesn't always carry over. So, very fortunate to have a group that, one, plays well together, and two, is really happy for each other. But definitely the same thing. I think, I have a lot of respect for Coach Miller and his group. And I think, he may say no stars, but I think Al Tenor is a pretty phenomenal player and has been a first team all conference guy for a while. And somebody that has done a lot of really good things in his career. And I love watching play. But yeah, definitely a balanced group. I think we're very fortunate to have the guys we have.
All right, so you guys promised in the off-air section that you would actually give away the scouting report. So Tyler, you want to tell Glenn how to beat your team?
Oh, geez. I think Coach Miller has a probably good idea. As he said, he was in the Ivy League, has a pretty good grasp on the Princeton stuff. And, I think if my memory serves, I think USJ is actually the only program we've yet to beat in my time in the GNAC. And actually, I think it's the last team that has beat us in GNAC play. So we definitely got to get over that hump here at some point. Hopefully that'll be Saturday. But like I said, I think Coach does an unbelievable job with his group. And they really compete at a high level. They've seen a lot of really good teams. And so when they get into these big matchups, it's nothing new for them, which I have a lot of respect for. And I think you see show up when we start to play the game. I think those guys, they come in here on Saturday and they're planning on winning this game and walking away with it. And obviously our group very much feels the same way. So it's shaping up to be a really special game. And I think a great, opportunity for us to go out and try to get this thing done.
Yep, that last loss in conference play was in West Hartford back in early December of 2024. Not that we need to remind you. Glenn, you want to give away the scouting report to him?
Yeah, we're playing much better defense in league play than we were earlier in the year. But we're not going to play a 1-3-1 against you, Tyler. That changed the game a little bit in the NYU game, in Montclair State game, but because we were struggling back then defensively. So I went on championship video and I got the John Beeline tape on the 1-3-1 to teach it because I don't know anything about it. And it ended up being a good defense for us for a few games, but since then we're not going to play the 1-3-1. We're playing awful now. So.
Okay. So we'll see a lot of 1-3-1 on Saturday is what I'm hearing.
No, none.
I'm going to watch this game carefully now.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm watching.
For that.
Hey, defense travels. You never know what might come with them in their bags. Hey, guys, a lot of fun to chat. I really appreciate you taking on this kind of unique aspect of looking at your final game, which has a lot on the line. Regular season champs, you get to host. But as you said, Glenn, it's only one step along the way and hopefully playing in March. I appreciate the time and the outlook and getting to see you guys. Thanks so much. We have a tradition on this show. Glenn knows, I hope, or remembers, where we give the guests the final word. So we'll let Glenn go first, then Tyler. Any final thoughts, Glenn, that you'd like to share with those tuned in?
No, as I said before, you give great recognition to D3 basketball and keep it up. It's outstanding.
Well, thanks, Glenn. I appreciate that, especially from yourself. Tyler, any final thoughts you'd like to share with those tuned in?
Yeah, I'd like to second what Coach Miller said. I think what you and the cast of guys over at D3 DataCast and Bob have done for our sport and just the recognition we get. I say this all the time when we talk about like Division II. They don't have anything like this, and so it's very unique. And the light you guys shine on everybody and how you've been able to cover the country as well as you guys have, I think is really special. And just very thankful for you having myself on and obviously highlighting this game and where it's at and how fortunate we are. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. And again, all the credit to you guys for your continued, light shining on Division III and especially obviously men's basketball.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate that as well. Guys, have a good time. Glenn, safe travels to Standish. If you get to the lake, you went too far. I'm just saying. 3 o'clock coming up on Saturday. Guys, thanks so much for your time. Good luck, and we'll look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tyler Ackley and Glenn Miller from the St. Joe's of the GNAC. That's going to be a fun game. Again, 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's coming up. We got links at d3hoops.com for that one. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll jump out to Wisconsin. We'll talk about the WIAC-ness. that just continues in the WIAC men's race. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Stevens Point on deck, I should say, on the show.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. It's continuing to roll along on this Monday. The doors cracked open because our mascot, Tucker, just can't make up his mind if he wants to be inside or outside the studio. And I'm not, every time I get up to change it, he goes and alters the door. It's almost like he wants it open just for open sake. We're jumping out to the WIAC now, where the men's race has just been WIAC-y, but at least now we've got one team on top of the standings. Wisconsin Whitewater is now 9-4 in conference play with their win over Stevens Point last night, but there it is a logjam, to say the least, in second. Between La Crosse, Stevens Point, Oshkosh, and Platteville, all 8-5. Then Stout 5-8, and Stout's been playing spoiler left, right, and center. So's Eau Claire and River Falls at 3-10. One game left in the regular season for everybody, and then we can see the WIAC-ness of the conference tournament. Good luck breaking up that logjam, by the way. One of the teams we've been trying to talk to all season is Stevens Point. Well, it's like trying to hit a moving target in the WIAC. Like, we have to book out several days, even a week in advance of our guests, so we can have everything lined up. And you're like, oh, this will be a great one. And then you fire, and you're like, oh, maybe not. Admittedly, and hold on, Ken Turnbeck's jumping in already. What? Say that one again?
Well, you were saying, well, maybe not here, you got to throw a moving target out there. But no, I appreciate you having us on and talk a little WIAC basketball and coming in from the Pointer perspective.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we had you lined up earlier in the season, and to your credit, you contacted me and said, hey, you know what, maybe somewhere else they're looking good, i.e. we've taken a couple of hits, and we followed that narrative. Obviously, after the Whitewater loss, I think you were feeling the same thing. But at some point, we just got to rip the Band-Aid off, Kent. So here you are. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the program. We haven't talked since you got in charge of the program officially. So first and foremost, congratulations on that on the record. We've talked about it off the record. This has been a wild season. Listen, we're used to the craziness in the WIAC. We know on any given night, somebody can knock off somebody. But this has been on another level this year. Nobody until last night has really stood above the pack, and even Whitewater is only a game up. And those teams at the bottom are good, don't have great conference records, but man, they've got some timely wins. Have you lost any hair?
Oh, it's what you sign up for in this league. You know that, Dave, and following. And this is as deep as it's been. I think there's been this is now my 15th year in the league. And when you go through that, you have different scenarios. There was one probably about a decade ago that UW La Crosse won the league at 9-5, but it was when the league was kind of down. And only one team from the league made the conference tournament that year. I think it was Oshkosh that won the conference tournament. I think Coach Yuckum's like second or third year there that they got it done. But so there's been normally the winners, around 2 or 3 losses, in there where it's not quite as crazy in this logjam. This is as deep as it's ever been, right? When you can have a River Falls that can go out on the road, win at home, when you have UW Eau Claire that's 11-0, and it's not like they started playing bad basketball, right? It's just somebody has to lose in our league, and we have 8 quality teams with 8 quality staffs, and everybody's working their tail off. And the amount of close games that are out there, there's been some injuries that different teams have faced throughout the year, and that they have to be able to overcome. I mean, heck, we lost our 34-minute starting center in Cal Crone, after the first game of conference play. So we had to go from being a team that pounded the ball inside to be one that shoots threes like everybody else. And that's just not us. That's a number of different teams in our league that have had to deal with that. And that's challenging to do against really, really good programs and good coaching staffs. And I think that's what you just see, on a nightly basis, and why the records are what they are and how close we are to one another.
Another way of turning that one earlier about somebody has to lose, somebody has to win. Like, if somebody's going to coin flip it at the start, let's just make everybody's night a lot easier. Listen, I think, and to your point about losing players, and you and I were talking off air about what Whitewater's lost, and we know other guys have lost key guys in key moments. You all were on a tear, along with your women's team, we should point out. I think they were undefeated at one point going into conference play. You guys had one loss out of conference. It was to North Park in an absolute dandy of a game, triple overtime Thanksgiving weekend. You had beaten Hardin-Simmons. You had beaten Trinity, Texas. Those games played down at Trinity. You came rolling into conference play. By the way, a win over St. Olaf as well, win over Milliken. You win the first 3 games in conference play. You had to have been kind of feeling the best of the best, right? Like, things were just couldn't be any better. And I think that's about the time we went, hi, Kent. Then lost 3 of the next 4. Like, that's not a bump in the road. That's like you just lost the transmission. How do you adjust to that, recover, deal with it as a team, and not lose everything?
Well, you were the right guys in the locker room, and we knew, this has been a progress for us, right? The guys, Josiah Butler, up until that point, Josiah Butler, Cal Crone, Seth Meyer, and Logan Baumgartner were young men that we brought into that first recruiting class when we came here, and they came in all late, right? We got the job in May. They came in, and we started school a couple months later. So they've been a part of this process of bringing Pointer basketball back to the national level. I think that most fans and people expect this, and more importantly, the standard that we expect out of ourselves. And that's been a slow grind to be able to, finish in the top 4 right away their freshman year, playing all freshmen. Last year, beating Trine and really being in the hunt up until the last weekend to get in the NCAA tournament. And now this year to start off that well, and then all of a sudden like people, we lost a really, really important piece in Cal Crone. We were number 2 in the country in scoring the ball in the paint. We were kind of that old school team that just pounded it. I think we made like 4 threes a game, which nobody does, right? And we really, really were just controlling the paint. And then all of a sudden we lost that, and you have to lose it. Meanwhile, when you're playing Whitewater and Oshkosh and Platteville and Stout and everybody else that's out there. So it took us a time to adjust. We lost some tight ones in there, a 3-point loss at Platteville, a 2-point loss at Platteville, a 3-point loss at La Crosse. So we were competitive in games, but you got to be able to win the close ones if you're going to be the one that has the trophy at the end. And then we found our footing and have not gone on that run that we did in the non-conference play. You forget we started off winning at MSOE, who's in really, really good position, and Kevin heard what he's done there. On there, he was a Pointer assistant when I was here as an assistant.
You got to get him in
shout
there.
out there, but. That's, we always say it in the recruiting process. When you beat somebody good in our league, you won a really quality game. And if you don't come ready to play, you're going to get embarrassed. And that's what our league has. I mean, I'm not sure there's another one that's out there. Just think of this, Dave. 5 years in 2015, we won a national title. 5 or 6 years later, we finished dead last. UW Whitewater wins a national title the previous year. 5 years later, they finished dead last in our league. UW Oshkosh, a few years later with Coach Lewis, right, win a national title. 5 years later, they finished dead last in our league. That's that, and none of them forgot how to coach or recruit or anything like that. That's how challenging the WIAC is. You have to come ready because another staff and another program is nipping at the heels, and nobody's going to feel sorry for you. And to all that, and to think now we're Matt's got Oshkosh 1 game behind. We're playing them on Saturday in a huge contest for seeding, and who knows, maybe a chance for a share if somehow Whitewater drops one. That's really, really good stuff. You want to feel those emotions towards the end of the year that you're in the race. And that's where our program is right now. We're back in the race. Now we have to be able to go take advantage of those opportunities our young men have created.
But your note on MSOE, we saw them in Las Vegas. Yes, they lost to Redlands by 20. That it was a very competitive game. They lost to Occidental, a competitive game. I've thought the world of MSOE. They've also got one of the best players in Division III. The list is long in that category, by the way, and they've figured it out in conference play. Let me get back to the team, and then I want to kind of dive back into the program. You mentioned losing Crone. He played 13 games, averaged 15.8. You have Josiah Butler, as we know, 18.5 points. Also, Seth Mirren and Logan Baumgartner, both double figures. Forgive me because I just can't remember. Is Cal out for the season? Do you hope to get him back, or is this a dynamic he's gone?
Yeah, no, he's gone. We knew that evening. We won at home against UW Eau Claire to hand them their first loss of the season. Then we went to Whitewater, and he went down in the first 2 minutes.
That's right.
So,
Thank you.
So we were able to get that one on the road, which has turned out to be obviously a pretty darn impressive win. And then when we beat Oshkosh at home, and then teams start to figure it out. Coaching staffs try to figure it out, and then you have to be able to make adjustments for there. But Cal will be back next year. But unfortunately, he put on 25 pounds of muscle. I thought he was on pace to certainly be an all-conference player. He was playing that way. But that's, again, now with him down, the credit to, Josiah and Seth and Logan. They've stepped their game up, right? Seth Myron is somebody that's as versatile as any player in the country, and doesn't probably get some of that recognition, but that's because there's a lot of really, really good players in our league and across the country. Josiah Butler, since his freshman year, has been an all-conference player, right? He's going to be another all-conference player this year, and if he's healthy next year, he's going to be an all-conference player. So to think that you have somebody, he's already scored 1,000 points in his career. So do you think of that as our foundation, along with some of the freshmen and young guys that we have to be able to play? We're in a really, really nice spot, but being in a good spot doesn't mean you're going to get the result in the end. And, unfortunately, we felt that last night, and where we led for 30 minutes, and then Whitewater and their experience and their toughness and coach, their credit to their staff, was able to get it done on our court for the first time all season. We were 10-0 going, and then at home, and they took it from us. And now how do we recover to go over to Oshkosh and play a team that is dynamic and loaded, top to bottom, and has one of the best coaches in our league and in the country, in Matt Lewis.
The crazy thing about everything you just said is not one of those guys do you lose next year. In theory.
Yeah.
They all, in theory, they all come back. You have one senior on this team. I'm sorry, two. There's Josh Bosher and Shane Tarjan.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing, Ken, is you guys are having this good a season with this group. And I know we're not looking ahead to next year, but you've also got to feel pretty good that we've had this success now and we can build on this.
Now, you feel good with what you're able to build, but that's again the credit of the guys that believed in the vision of Pointer basketball. We'll say it all. We've had 4 straight decades of success. Dick Bennett came here in the 70s. He won in the 80s. We won in the 90s. We won in the 2000s. We won in the 2010s. That's 4 straight decades. I don't consider yet what we've done in the 2020s as winning, right? We won 18 games last year. We got in the top 10. We've been ranked, consistently in the top 25. But the standard of point basketball is winning, and winning at the highest level. And then in addition to that, Dave, I like our group coming back, but it's the sustained success that you want to be able to build year after year after year, right? When that next group is gone, are you ready to come right back and bounce? Because you see this, and there's no disrespect to anybody in the country that builds for 1 or maybe 2 years, and then there's a drop off. The standard of Pointer basketball is that we're going to be knocking at the door each year. We're not there yet, Dave. We're not there yet, but we're only on year 3 of this thing coming back, and there's a chance that it's there, but we need to be able to continue to lay the groundwork with the young men that we have, and we have the right guys in the locker room, and there's no reason why we can't make a special run this year. You just have to continue to shore things up like so many teams, throughout the country.
You bring up that tradition of winning, and I wanted to bring that up a little bit because this could be a 30 for 30 someday, but we never have had the chance to talk about the slide and what happened to the program. Obviously, got in trouble with NCAA sanctions. It dragged on far longer than it ever had to, which just got, from being outside of it at one point, it was being used against Stevens Point in recruiting. And so when you took over the program from Bob Semling, you had to do some retooling, some rebuilding in a lot of ways that I probably can never imagine, both in recruiting and in community and on campus and wherever else. So, 18-9 is great, right? But 8-8 to finish the 25 part of last season, you haven't gotten to the consistent 20 wins and all that, but I see it coming. How hard has this been to kind of rebuild a storied program to where, having been an assistant at one time, it has always been?
Well, there's the standard is exciting, and that's why, for a number of different reasons, my family and I decided to make the move back here because you understand what pointer basketball is. There, Jack Bennett's name is on the floor. Dick Bennett's name is on the floor, right? I mean, and how awesome the other game. When we beat Lacrosse at home, they're both there. And,
yeah.
and
by the way, great picture on social media. Amazing.
That's the stuff that's so special and why we say it's different here with our program where we average over 1,000 fans a game. We have a sold out PPE section. We sell beer to the entire arena. Why? Because there's 1,000 fans that are coming and you can actually make money on it, right? I mean, those are right. I mean, if everybody's claiming that they're getting 1,000 fans, then they should probably be doing the same thing. We do it because that's actually in there. And those things make pointer basketball different. And Coach Semling is one of the best, if not the best, Division III coach or coach that I've been around, and I've worked for some really good ones. I mean, he won 72% of his games. He was a part of 4 national titles. When I came here and I talked to Brad Duckworth, I said, Brad, I've never won 72% of my games, right? So let's understand where we're trying to be able to go and be able to get to. But when you get the right guys in the locker room and the right coaching staff, then the sky is the limit. And just because we have had a proud past does not mean it guarantees a passionate future. Oshkosh is working. Whitewater's working. Eau Claire has a $100 million new gym. River Falls is working. Stout. I mean, you go down Platteville. I mean, come on, man. I mean, they've had a really, really good, consistent run, and that they're right in this hunt after losing their young men that they've had last year. That's a credit to Coach Guard and obviously Whitewater. Now, like that is sometimes it's like, holy man, how do we maintain this to be able to understand how good the league is? And all you can do is just go out and work. Go out in your work and you try to find the right guys to get in your locker room. And we have that, and we need to continue to have that. And then can you win those tight games where it's going to take great energy and effort and execution and all that. But every coach knows that. But the standard is real, and that's okay. That's okay. That's what we're going to recruit to, and we're certainly not going to run to it or run from it. We're going to run to it because that's what we expect and our fan base expects.
Absolutely. Makes total sense. And you, being at Lacrosse, understood what it's like to recruit against it or have success recruiting against it. Like, you kind of have that odd outside perspective that you could bring back into it. By the way, was there a part of the contract where you had to change your middle name or your last name to Bennett? I wasn't positive. Did you have
if it gets me to be halfway successful as either one of them, I'll
do
that in a heartbeat.
You'll do it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Quickly, last 3 games, you've dropped 2 to River Falls, Whitewater. You do have Oshkosh ahead. And then the conference tournament, as we were just talking, Glenn Miller at St. Joe's pointed out, one game is 1 quarter of this, then it's the conference tournament, and there's so many other factors in play here. This conference has been on its head in the first place. What do you expect for how it's going to end?
The team that each game is coming down the stretch, right? And it's usually right around that 10-minute mark in the second half that some team has been able to make a push. And we're all, I think we all have holes, to be honest with you. And I mean, that's pretty obvious to say. If none of us had holes, there'd be one of us that would have ran away with this thing a little bit. We all have holes a little bit, but it's going to be the one that obviously gets hot down the stretch. And we have an opportunity to go over to Oshkosh, and we're going to have to play really, really good basketball and steal it on their court. We know what's coming there. We know the style of play. We know the athleticism and how hard they play consistently on a nightly basis under Coach Lewis. And they have seniors that are playing in their last games, certainly in the regular season, probably not overall, or certainly not overall, but that's what you'd expect from any league in the country in the last night of play. It's just amazing people, one, that are coming together as a group, playing for one another and playing their absolute hardest, right? Playing their heart out. And that's what's great to be able to witness. And I think why Division III basketball is so darn popular, and thankfully why we have so many people following it. But you can't have people follow it if you don't have young men or people like yourself that actually report on it. But because it's so genuine and pure, then there's the following that it is. And that's what makes it so great.
You guys beat Oshkosh, as we pointed out earlier on, by 11. I'm assuming throw that out. Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. It was kind of a free throw fest in there for a bit, it doesn't matter. We're both kind of different versions of ourselves right now, and it's just going to be a great contest. 7 p.m. Last game of the regular season, in our league, and certainly going to be a great atmosphere, and looking forward to it for our guys.
Holy cow! When you said free throw thing, you aren't kidding. They were 15 of 21. You all were 33 of 42. Butler was 18 of 18. I was at a game last night. One team won 18 of 19. Butler basically met that in one. That's insane. Well, good luck. Thanks for coming on. Love the insight. It's been too long. Last time we had you on, you were at lacrosse. Appreciate the perspective and everything. And as always, appreciate your time. As always, though, we also give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
It's kind of, I put this out there. This is not we have Coach Bennett, Dick and Jack over here, watching. They've been a part of the program, and we've used this line often, is like, good basketball knows no level, good basketball knows no division. And that's what you see on a nightly basis, right? From across our sport, and men's basketball, women's basketball, athletics in general. Like, it's genuine, and it's pure, and it's right. And how it doesn't mean what's happening at Division I or at scholarship schools means that it's wrong what they're doing there, but it doesn't make it right what it is. And I just think this level and the support that we get is needed for the student athletes that we have. I'm appreciative of all the people that give it, and I'm really proud of across the country how well we all go out and be able to compete and represent our schools.
Well said, sir. Well said indeed. It is a refrain that we think of highly as well, and I appreciate you saying it that emphatically. You take care of yourself. Look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Ken Dernbach joining us. Speaking of which, here's that image he was talking about. We pulled it from his Twitter, where he's standing with the Bennetts. He tweets, "Incredible having the founders of Good Basketball Knows No Division watching us compete on the floor. Bennett Court. The name is bigger than the Roman numerals." We've heard so many people make that same refrain, and it's a great pick. Admittedly, I may have looked at it for a little longer than I needed to that night. Pretty impressive. We'll take another break. When we come back, we will switch to women's basketball. Transylvania's head coach will join us to talk about her squad, and then we head to New York, where Nazareth is flying pretty well in the Empire 8. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops from the WBCA studios. More after this.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us. All of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Comprehensive learning is being able to adapt to experiences and apply the things that I learned. Being an athlete and juggling academics helped me grow as a person, and things that I've learned, I was able to apply it in another field, putting them into everyday life. Developing comprehensive learning helped me prioritize certain things to make sure I get to where I want to be.
For the love of the game, But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
We are calling you, all of you. We are calling all Division III schools to join our cause.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Blue frame ads running only because our partners at Huddle. We haven't gotten new ones from them. We'll get them someday. If you've got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville, email us hoopsville at d3sports.com. Good conversation going on the possibilities of yeshiva, where they would go if they were to win the Skyline, and Ryan Scott jumps in there. Most of the mock brackets I've done as yeshiva, either at Endicott or Christopher Newport. Like I said, you could go in any direction. Ironically enough, they could end up playing NYU. Amherst, WPI, Catholic, Babson, all certainly other first-round opponents. Yeshiva's in that part of the country where we could send them anywhere. Going to switch to talk women's basketball at this point. We head out to Kentucky. We had that weird storm here out in, this is going to be Dave Goes on a Tangent. Weird storm we had out here about 3-4 weeks ago. That snow's still around, to my pleasure, in this region, and it finished with sleet. And I had said to folks I'd never seen it sleet in the teens. Well, the worst sleet storm I ever saw was in Kentucky, but it wasn't at Transylvania. That's where the worst tornado storm I ever witnessed and experienced in my personal life. But there's a men's basketball team hosting the opening round weekend. Since then, to be honest with you, the women's team has been stealing all the spotlights there at Transylvania. And after winning a national title and certainly having a lot of success, falling to NYU. Remember, that's a little trivia question here. Last time NYU lost a game in women's basketball, it's Transylvania, folks. Julie Folks moved on. Hannah Klein took over. She's kind of retweaked things, had to deal with maybe a little bit of loss of recruiting, but she's back, and this team is looking good. What can they do? They've already wrapped up the conference regular season, and they already know who their first-round opponent's going to be in the conference tournament. Oh, it's the one they just got done with. Hannah Klein joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk about Hanover, to talk about the HCAC, to talk about coaching this program, and to talk about Brian Lane. Hannah, good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Liz, doing well. I appreciate it. This is a program we got used to 30-win teams, and I said, I had to retweak things. You still put in 22 wins last season. This program may have missed a slight beat that we're used to, but still have only lost one game in conference play going back to 2021 season. What what's this like to take over this program and still have this kind of success?
Yeah, I mean, I think I tell everybody it's been fun to, I spent 4 years here as an assistant, associate head coach, had a lot of success. I think Julie and I were very aligned on how we wanted to run the program, especially from an X's and O's standpoint. So taking over, I think, was a pretty seamless transition of knowing that what we did worked. We're obviously a little unconventional, run primarily a 2-3 zone, which now everybody has seen for the last 4 years. So it's been fun to now take my own little spin to it. And that's probably been more of like the standard culture expectation standpoint of moving one seat over is obviously figuring out what you want your program to look like. So that has been, obviously a challenge in the last year of what we want that to look like. I think we've had to shift a little bit offensively to what works with this team, but that's always kind of been our motto of how do we put our team to be in the most successful position. And I think we've been very consistent on whatever that looks like. We don't really care as long as it gives us the best chance to win. I think our team has always had that motto too. So this year we're running a little bit more of a 5-out system, a little bit more of a dribble drive, which has been different from years past. And we've really started to turn the corner in the last 2 weeks, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah, 2 losses in conference. We'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to point out, Julie was rude not taking you to Marshall. I'm just saying. That's just rude. No, I kid. I know there's a lot more involved than that.
Yeah.
But hats off to her. They're 22-6 this season.
They are absolutely killing it
Yeah.
this year. I actually just got off the phone with her and she's had to shoot around. So
There
they're
you go.
killing it.
12-3 in conference play. Heck of a turnaround from last year when they were 10-15. But most importantly, you do look at your program, and I, tongue in cheek, had an off year last year at 22-6. Again, we were so used to these 30-win seasons for a couple of years. Made the NCAA tournament, got past Mount St. Joe, then Trine. You had a great game with them in Bloomington, Illinois. But that's also the first time this program had kind of exited at that point in the tournament in quite some time. Was there a little bit of kind of adjusting and understanding kind of the new world, as it were, that A, you're not a surprise to anybody anymore, and B, now people think they can beat you, so you got to approach the game a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think it's been a good balance of both. I think last year we really, really struggled at the beginning with just losing. We had 5 seniors that had gone undefeated for almost 4 years straight. We went to Redlands, had a tough travel schedule there, lost a game, come back, lose 2 games in a conference tournament or tournament that we hosted near Christmas. So there was a lot of difficult conversations, I think, early in the year of figuring out who we wanted to be and making sure we were, that group was used to winning. And that's always been our culture and always been our standard. And obviously having a little bit of turnover, we needed some time to figure that out. So I think it's been a really cool adjustment. Now this next year, we have an unbelievable group of seniors that, same thing, won a national championship, are very, very used to winning, and they have set the culture and the standard for what Transylvania women's basketball needs to look like. And that's what it's been the last 10 years. So I think we've handled the losses this year definitely a little bit better, and it's been much less, pouting, putting our heads down, tail between our legs, and it's let's get to work the next day, watch film, get in the gym, figure out what we need to get better at. And I think that's been the big difference in the last month after losing. I don't think we knew at the time what that Denison loss was going to do. Obviously a very, very good team. Lose a tough home game to Maryville, lose an overtime game, a double overtime game in the conference. And I think this season could have gone a lot of different ways, but to their credit, of our upperclassmen and seniors, they just put their head down and went to work. And that's, I think, where we've seen the change in the last month of how well we've been playing, is they just want to get better and they want to win. And that's always been the standard and the culture of our program.
Yeah, you talk about the difference, 6 losses last year. You had those 3 in a row in December. I'm sure that derailed a lot of things, but you still only lost once in conference. The last time this program lost more than one in a conference schedule, you have to go back to 2017-18 when they were 15-3. And then it's 1 loss for 2 years, no losses for 4 years, then 1 loss last year. It's 2 this year. So that's a little bit of a different dynamic too, right? And is that a statement of what the conference is now starting to do? Because Franklin's gotten more competitive, certainly. Or is that maybe a little testament of you guys as well?
I think I got to give credit to our conference. Our conference is getting better. Franklin was at the same tournament with Denison with us this year, held them to I think the same score. Hanover is somehow an 8 seed after beating Trine on the road, who's now a top 15 program. So I think we know that motto that any given night, anybody can beat anybody, especially when you get to end of January and February when people are tired and sick and hurt and all the other things and road games. So we don't take any days off from that perspective mentally. And I think, if anything, the two losses helped us with a little bit of a wake-up call. I think Audie Crooks had a good note when they lost the game of, if you end up winning that game, you don't look as deeply probably into the issues that you need to fix. So I think it was a good wake-up call for us of really digging deep and watching film and figure out what we needed to get better at. And to the players' credit, they dug in with us. There was not we had to pull people along. Our culture is exactly where we want it to be right now, of people wanting to just get in the gym and figure it out. That's kind of been our motto the last month, of how we get our team to figure it out themselves without having to rely on the coaching staff. And our upperclassmen has done an amazing job. One, teaching our underclassmen. That's always been the strength of our program, is them being amazing teachers. And two, just pulling people along with them and wanting to get in the gym, wanting to watch film, and figuring out how we can get better.
This team's, you look at it statistically, Sierra Kemligor.
Yep.
Ooh, I need to go out and buy it. I am rolling today, which means I just jinxed it. 15 points a game. But she's a senior. Riley Flynn, a junior, second at 13.5. And then Grinter. There she is, senior. I couldn't find her there for a second. So you got this upperclassman group who's scoring double figures, but you do have at least an underclassman in Flynn in that mix, who has missed a few games due to injury. That's what jumps out. Obviously, shoot well. Other than Grintner is a free throw challenge for most opponents. Everybody's rebounding. Everybody's dishing it out. Everybody's getting steals. It's really shocking. If you look at the three players, folks, on the statistics, very equal. What's the rest of the story? What's the rest of the story with that trio? What's the rest of the story with the rest of the group?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is our focus on player development. So if you look at Sierra as a freshman and a sophomore, I think she averaged maybe 8 to 10 minutes a game, 2 points a game, and was playing behind Maddie Kellyan, who's been on the show, All-American, National MVP player of the game in the national championship. Next year, Kennedy Stacy, who's an All-American, Deja Thornton, who's an All-American. So bides her time her freshman and sophomore year. And I think that's always been the strength of our program, is the emphasis on player development. So as a freshman, sophomore, she's playing against the top competition in the country every single day. And instead of, this kind of transfer culture that we have now, she puts her head down, she goes to work, she gets in the gym. And now as a junior and a senior, she was Defensive Player of the Year last year. I think, in my opinion, she's the Player of the Year in our conference this year, could be Defensive Player of the Year this year. So that's really been our motto with our program, and I think what's led to the longevity of our success. And I think your previous guest just said it, that we really focus on getting our underclassmen up to speed quickly. And it's same story for Riley. Played a little bit her freshman year, went into a starting role as a sophomore, and now has just taken off this year. And what you don't see is we have a handful of freshmen and sophomores who could probably start and play a lot on a lot of other teams in the country, but they're playing behind the Sierras and the Rileys and the McHughs. And if they just bide their time and put in the work, they will be ready to go as juniors and seniors. And I think that's why our program has been where it's at the last 10 years.
You look at what's ahead. You just got done with Hanover, beat them by 7 on the road. Earlier in the season, you had them at home, beat them by 9. You've got them next in the conference tournament. Like, it's already preset. It starts up on Saturday. What is the message to the team going into this game? The old adage is you can't beat a good team 3 times, right? But at the same time, you're going to you got to get further in this tournament. You got to punch your ticket to the NCAAs, which isn't necessarily assured. So what's the message in the locker room?
I think we left yesterday just really, really proud of the way that our team competed for 40 minutes. We obviously did not shoot the ball as well as we would like. Hanover is an unbelievably physical, gutty team that played really, really well last night. So I got to give credit to them. But I think if you look at our 4 losses this year, it's an average of 3 points, which you can blame it on coaching or not. But I think we had we had a lot of moments in each of those 4 games where we needed to get over the hump a little bit, and we just couldn't. So I think the fact at this point, last game of the regular season, we were able to get over the hump is where we want to be moving into conference tournament play. I think playing them on Wednesday is a good thing for us. We just saw how they're going to defend, how they're going to play offensively. It gives us a little bit less film we need to watch on somebody else. Most importantly, give our team some rest today. Got back at midnight last night and had to go to class today, so let them rest a little bit today, and then we'll get back to watching some film today and tomorrow and figure out some of the adjustments that we need to make before Saturday.
You're, according to Scott Peterson, sitting 49 in the NPI. That's kind of that bubblish region, right? Like you don't want a lot of bid thieves. You want to make sure you're in a good position. So I'm assuming it's, hey, we got to win this out.
Yeah, I mean, that's always our goal. We're not worried about anybody else. Our goal every single game is to walk in and do what we need to do. And that's how we approach every game. It's way less time spent on what other people are doing or they're going to run this play or that. Obviously, we do scouting, but we spend 90% of our practices focused on what we need to get better at. And I think that's one of the benefits of the zone, too. But every game, we're just focused on us and what we need to get better at for the next game and taking it game by game.
Let me go back to what you were up to. I don't know if we know a lot about Hannah Klein, formerly known as Hannah Verrill. Verrill, is that saying that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, cool.
2 for 2.
Again, I'm going to have to go buy a lottery ticket. Graduate of Missouri, as in Missouri. Got master's and bachelor's in accountancy. Got your CPA. You went off to PricewaterhouseCoopers in St. Louis. Got going pretty nicely there, managing some people, doing some darn good stuff, and then that basketball bug kept biting you. So tell us a little bit about your time at Missouri and then your time away and what brought you back to the game.
Went to Mizzou, got my master's in accounting, and then immediately after graduation, worked in public accounting for 3 years. During that time, I was helping out with my high school team back home and really just fell back in love with the game of the player development piece, working with the seniors, and just being around the game full time again. So on a whim, decided that accounting was not going to be my lifelong dream and passion, and it was kind of just burnt out, and found an assistant coaching position at Hanover College. So went down, visited the school, met with Coach Jones, and moved down to Hanover 2 weeks later. So definitely a wild, interesting career path. I got to give Jonesy a huge shout out. Obviously, seeing him last night was super fun, of giving somebody with really, really minimal coaching experience a shot, and has really changed the trajectory of my career and now, my passion and what I'm doing for the rest of my life. So I spent 2 years there as an assistant, really, really successful teams, had an All-American there, beat Transy once, and then got a chance to meet Coach Folks just through, getting our butts kicked a couple times a year. Came down after COVID, had a chance to meet with Julie and really just fell in love with the school. Obviously, being in a city like Lexington is obviously a little bit of an anomaly with a school our size. So wanted to move to a little bit of a bigger city, but more importantly, just fell in love with the people at Transy, where the trajectory of the program was going. At that point, I think they had just gone to the Sweet 16 and was really making some noise on a national level. And that part was really, really exciting to me to win at that level and experience that. And obviously you've talked with her, everything that she offers in coaching and X's and O's and leadership from that standpoint. So came down, moved to Lexington, spent 3 years here as an assistant, and then got promoted to associate head coach, and then took over at head coach after Julie decided to go to Marshall.
By the way, that loss, I think, was in 2020. The Hanover win, 64-57.
Yeah, a couple people reminded me of that last night, so that was a good start to the game.
Nice. And we should point out you played you didn't play D1 basketball in Missouri. You were on the club there.
Yep.
But still shows kind of that passion that you had for the game that kind of was underlying a little bit.
Yeah.
Before jumping back in. But working for Price Water, like that Price Cooper Waterhouse ain't a shabby place to be working to walk away from. So that's a heck of a left turn, as it were. It's obviously worked out nicely.
Yeah. I mean, I had to figure out the X's and O's piece. Basketball has always been one of my passions, and just been a gym and a film junkie. But I think the the ability for me now to have conversation with our student athletes about how you manage teams. And I just think all organization groups are the same, whether it's a family, a corporation, a basketball team. So I think the way that I was able to get experience at the corporate level directly correlates now to being a coach. And I don't think you realize that until you're in coaching, that it's 90% non-basketball things, and 10% actual X's and O's. So I think that helped me translate that a little bit easier.
Makes total sense. Management is still management no matter where it is. It's just a different maybe outcome or a different look at it, but it's still management of some kind. I still look back at the time I talked to Nancy Fay after she took over at Illinois. I said, what's the biggest differences? She goes, I'm now managing 2 teams.
Yes.
I'm managing the team and I'm managing my group, my coaches and stuff that are handling the team.
Yep.
So it's doubling the management in 2 different styles. Hey, Hannah, really appreciate the time and insight on Transylvania. Congratulations on the season. And I think we got all the way through this without bashing Brian Lane. So, because I'm sure Brian is like listening in right now because he could start his computer, but he'd rather listen through the walls of what's going on. We have a tradition on the show. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Yeah, I just got to thank, you, Riley, Ryan, Scott, everyone that has really promoted Division III basketball. I think specifically Division III women's basketball. It is great basketball across the board. And I think anytime that we can shed light on just these amazing program, amazing women, amazing athletes that are balancing the rigor of academics and playing a sport and working and all the other things they have to do at the Division III level, there is very, very good basketball to watch. So I appreciate all the time and energy you guys put into showcasing the talent that we have.
Well, thanks for coming on, too. I appreciate it. It makes it, as I say to people, it's a lot easier when people are willing to come on and chat with us so we can sound smarter. So thank you for your time and congratulations again. Good luck this weekend and hopefully next week. And hopefully we hear your name in March as well. And take care.
Thank you.
Hannah Klein joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline, talking all things Pioneers basketball. That's one of those crazy ones, by the way, where the mascot doesn't line up with the name. Transylvania Pioneers, but they got this great bat logo. You got to love the uniqueness. By the way, there's a book. It's up on my shelf about uniquenesses of mascots and logos in Division III. We'll have to pull it out here soon and start going through it again. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to head up to New York State, not city, New York State. Nazareth flying also high in the Empire 8. We'll talk to their head coach, Kelly Dunromick, coming up. Listen to Hoopsville, presented by WBC. Or from the WBCA studios, presented by D3 Hoops.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
I believe sportsmanship is a mutual admiration and respect for your fellow competitors. We all go through a lot to reach the point where we compete against one another. It's important to realize that. So once we're finally on the field or on the court or on the starting block, we look at each other as fellow human beings and not just competitors. Being able to recognize the hard work that other athletes are putting in creates a more positive and inclusive environment.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is... Cut that off. Let's get back to the show. Sorry for the longer break there than ever. But a reminder tonight, exclusive conversation from the National Committee Chairs. Show is at 7 p.m. tonight. If you got questions for the committee chairs, send them our way. We've already gotten, I think, a couple of questions. Email us at hoopsville@d3sports.com. That is hoopsville@d3sports and the .com. We will try and get your questions answered if appropriate, etc. Yeah, we've gotten a couple of questions there. We'll see what we can piece together for them. Again, 7 o'clock. And then Scott Peterson and Matt Snyder will join us, talk about teams that could still enter the top 4, 8, or 16, conference races to keep an eye on, bid thieves that you should be wary of that could ruin your conference's hopes of multiple bids or your hopes of getting in on the bubble. That's all ahead tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, because we haven't done enough shows. We should do some more. I'm Dave McHugh. Welcome in. We got one more guest to talk about. Then coming up, we'll have our 2 cents and some other things to discuss, including answering some questions that you have sent in on the show so far today, which you can do as well at the same email address or via our live show or other means. Hey, let's head up to upstate New York. Nazareth women's basketball flying high, as I've said a few times. The Golden Flyers are playing some good basketball in the Empire 8. They've already wrapped up the conference standings at 15-1. and they will wrap up the regular season coming up. They got a 2-game lead on Brockport, which means they can't be caught, but they'll be still wanting to play strong to the end of the season because, as everyone knows, you never know where you're going to finish. Nazareth is one of those bubblish-like teams as well for making the NCAA tournament. What does it all mean? How does it all play out? What does a coach do to focus on her team or get them to focus on the bigger topic? Kelly Dunn-Romig joins us on the Hoopsville hotline to be a glutton of my punishment. Kelly, good to have you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, again, this team's playing really well. It's been kind of maybe an under-the-radar story. You've won 20-plus games each now of the last 3 seasons. It really go back to 22-23, add 1 win, and we got 4 straight after a few years kind of off the radar. What's been the secret in the sauce?
Just the players. We have a pretty big senior class this year. So as you said, we've had 20 wins the last 3 years, so they've been a part of all of them. They've kind of gone through everything in terms of players. Freshman year, they came in with a really big 5th-year class because that was, the second to last year of that COVID year. So they came in and, didn't get a ton of minutes. Some of them got a little bit more than others. And then those 5th years all left after that their freshman year, and they were had to fill big shoes their sophomore year, and they did. I think they surprised a lot of people 3 years ago and did really, really good things that sophomore year, and then have just been flying high ever since, like you said.
Yeah, no, it works. Again, 1 loss in conference this season. It was an overtime loss to now Empire 8 foe, SUNY Geneseo.
Mm-hmm.
Still weird to say that. Also losses this season. You went out to California, lost to Cal Lu, 85-57. That's a sneaky, weird, good Cal Lu team. Lost to Rochester down the road, 74-58, and a loss in overtime to what is always a tough opponent in Messiah. What do we make of the losses? Let's start there. What do we take from each of those losses to better understand a team that hasn't lost, though, since the beginning of January?
Yeah, the first one was that Messiah loss, like you talked about, which was in overtime, and that was the first weekend. So it was a long time ago. It was back in early November, and it was at their place, and beautiful campus. That was my first time ever there, and beautiful gym, and Mike does an awesome job there, and they obviously have a tradition of winning. So we knew going into that tournament that was going to be a really important game and a kind of a test game. Obviously we had to get there first to the championship of their tournament, but that's one game where, we made it to overtime, and it was a really tough team with a really dynamic, awesome player, Olivia Montoro, who's a senior for them. So, losing that game, it was one of those where it was like, hey, we were right there. We'd love to see them again now, type thing. And then, the Rochester game, they're tough in that, like everyone, they're going to give you a game no matter what, and they play in such a tough league, and they've had some really impressive wins this year. Their record might not show it, but they're a very, very good team and a young team also. So we saw them on a game where they shot poorly the 3 games prior, and they chose our game to kind of have that breakout game. And the Cal Lu game, that's the one out of all of the losses I'd love to have that game back. It was a tough, on paper in general, it was going to be tough for us. We were jet lagged. Our entire team had the flu, which was extremely fun to have in California. And they're, like you said, they're a sneaky team. They are really, really good. They have a really good post player and a really good point guard who were unbelievable when we saw them. So I would love to get, out of all of our losses, I'd love to get that game back, maybe on our court, and they got to fly to us, and maybe even on a neutral court. But we definitely did not have our best showing at all. And then our overtime loss in Geneseo, another one. They're a conference tournament or a NCAA tournament team. They returned a lot from last year. And that was back in January, like you said, and it was a playoff game. The gym was awesome. Both teams played really, really well. So, even though we lost, I said to Alyssa over at Geneseo, I was like, man, that was a fun game to be a part of. And for our spectators and our fans, it was a fun game to watch too. So, 2 out of our 4 losses to in overtime, and 3 of them were tournament teams last year. So, I think it says a lot about, the team this year for us.
Well, that's, a good breakdown of what was, right, and what could be. And clearly you guys kind of reset after the Geneseo game. You went out and beat Brockport the next day on the road, and you have been rolling since to the tune of what? I think 13 in a row. Having knocked off St. John Fisher, locked up the number 1 seed in the conference standings. Again, a 2-game lead on said Brockport. Houghton, by the way, in the mix with Geneseo at 11-5 in conference play, and Sage in there at 10-6. They've resurged, and then St. John Fisher. This has been an interesting conference. Obviously, it's changed in the evolution with bringing Brockport and Geneseo in, the whole public and private scenario, but it's gotten larger. How has that been able to, A, balance and B, tackle, as it were, when you now have kind of a different look? And on top of that, teams who are now kind of reemerging that haven't been around or competitive in a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think, this is the first year in a while, if I feel like in our conference, that there wasn't like a bottom team or 2. At any given night, someone could win. I think the larger the conference is makes it difficult year by year. Some years you might get lucky and see maybe quote unquote the bottom teams once, where you're seeing the top teams twice. And, we never were used to that. We were always seeing everyone twice, which I liked, in that, if you lose to them once, you do have another chance to get them back. We have Alfred on Saturday in our quarterfinals. And, that's an interesting game because we only saw them once this year, and it was our first conference game back December 6th. So I almost don't even really remember that game. And that's kind of the negatives of the bigger, that you're only seeing them, some teams one time. But with that being said, it's been really nice having Brockport, Geneseo, and SUNY Poly in our conference. They're competitive in pretty much every single sport. And the fact that for us, we're spoiled and that they are pretty much in our backyard too. So even road games for us at Brockport and Geneseo, we travel well too. We're able to get our students there and our parents there because they're both about 30 minutes away. So location wise, that's been really nice as well.
Yeah, I forgot about SUNY Poly entering too. Thanks for that, because brain dead over here apparently, not remembering the simple things. So you do get going into the conference tournament here. At least it's an offset schedule, that you're not playing 24 conference games of a 25 game schedule. But obviously, you say it makes it a little bit different. You haven't played Alfred in a while. You guys smoked Alfred, but that doesn't mean it can come back. So how do you approach it from the perspective of getting everybody ready for that opponent and then whomever it is that is to come?
Yeah, I mean, we're taking it game by game. We're not looking ahead. We're focused on just Saturday. We're approaching it like we would any other game. A lot of our practices, we really just kind of focus on us. We'll do some scout stuff throughout it, but for the most part, we practice what we do best, and we practice our offense and our defense. And so we're not approaching Saturday any differently. I think it is nice that we have seen Alfred, but we're kind of approaching it like we haven't either, because it's been so long. And so reminding them of, their key players and what they do well. Mike over at Alfred, I have a ton of respect for him, and he does a really good job with his team. And no matter what their record is every year, they're always play really, really hard, really, really scrappy. They're that team that kind of like never goes away. So we're not really focused on what we did earlier in the season to them, and just focused on, what we want to do on Saturday against them.
Tell me a little bit about this team. Molly Benetti leading the team in scoring at 14.1 points a game, 6.5 rebounds on top of that. Has a whole mess of assists, second on the team in that category. 2, Katie McLaughlin, who is second on the team in scoring at 13.3 points a game. Both of them shoot better than 45%. We got to stop having Molly take 3-pointers, though, Coach. Just something I noticed in the stat line. as a guy who thought he could hit threes as well. Maybe a stop sign or something?
She might be a gamer, though. Her two were against Geneseo, which was a huge game and a huge win. She also needed a couple points that game for her 1,000-point scoring. And Molly's a funny one in that she is a three-point shooter. She shot well last year from three. She shot well as a sophomore from three. She shoots great in practice from three. And I'm not a coach. I am not a coach to tell anyone to stop shooting. But I have a great relationship with all my players, but specifically Molly, where she's, when she's had a couple deep twos this year. One I can remember on the road, and the whole bench was going crazy because we finally were like, she just needed that one. And we see the ref put it, the two down, and she looks over and she's like, I can't buy one. I can't buy. And that's happened a couple times this season. And actually she's got a great 15-footer, and she shoots well from the free throw line. So I am not going to tell her to stop shooting. I think we are under the understanding of, hey, let's put the ball on the floor because she can beat anyone off the dribble at 6'1". She gets to the rim really well too. So she's good in that spot, and I'm confident that maybe she hits a couple more.
6'1" with the shoes on, coach, because she's listed at 6 foot in the system.
Yeah, my girls like to go they like to go down, which
and coaches like to go up. We know,
Correct.
We hear that.
Correct, but I'd say she's a true 6'1" if I had to guess. But for her sake, we'll say 6 foot.
That's all right. My favorite story in the world is a guy who was listed at 6'3", which is what I am. And when I walked next to him, I was looking down at him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I think my license might say 5'5". There's no way I am 5'5". I'm probably maybe more like 5'3", but my entire playing years, I was always 5'5". So I'm just keeping it that way.
I didn't expect us to be taking you out in the middle of this, calling yourself out on this.
Right.
Katie McLaughlin, as we mentioned, second on the team in scoring. There's also Sierra Anglin, Madeline Kelly, Serena McDowell. There's obviously other players who contribute. The first two I mentioned are near double figures in scoring. It feels like it feeds off Benetti and McLaughlin to some degree, and then everybody else has their role. Kelly has missed a few games, obviously, but what is that evolution? What if we're watching the game? How would we see that play out?
Dave, you say Molly and Katie. This team has been so special, and it's a team that I haven't really coached before, and that we are so balanced. Not just scoring wise, rebounding wise, assists, turnover. Everyone does a little bit of everything. And I think that's why we've been hard to beat so far, is that, if there is a game that it's just not their night, someone else is able to step up. Molly is our post player at 6 foot, but she can handle the ball as well. She takes it off the dribble. She's a great rim protector. She's got 55 blocks on the year, I believe. And she, like you said, she's second in our team in assists too. Katie, on the other hand, is a 5'11" point guard, which makes her extremely difficult to guard. And we just play better with the ball in her hands and when she's on the floor. She does a great job in transition. She's had some crazy passes in transition over her 4 years, and takes care of the ball. She shoots the ball well. And then, like you said, Kiara, she goes by Kiki. She is our defensive weapon. She is, her stat line is usually crazy across the board. Not so much scoring over her 4 years, but she's okay with that because she does all the little things. She's usually, coming out of nowhere with crazy rebounds, and she averages 1 charge a game. She is in charge of guarding every other team's best player and has held every single one of them under their average this year, and has so each year. She was defensive player of the year last year within our conference. I would imagine she should be it again. She is a force. And so, I think Katie and Molly do maybe more scoring, but Kiki a lot of times is the pulse, especially on the defensive end. And like you said, Maddie, Kelly missed a bunch of games early this year with a broken toe, which you don't hear of a lot. One of our, actually,
No.
Serena, who rounds out our 5 starters, stepped on it in practice with her size 14 foot.
Oh!
So she missed a bunch of games early on, and she actually missed 2 of our losses. We didn't have her. And she is our 3-point shooter. She cuts really well off the ball. She's a great passer as well. And then Serena rounds out our starting 5 out, who is another 6'1" post player that she runs the floor. She's usually the first down the floor, has really, really good hands and really, really good footwork. And both of them, Maddie and Serena, are both juniors, and the other 3 are seniors. So to have those 2 kind of rounding out our starting 5 and to be able to know that we'll have them back next year is a great thing.
A lot to unpack, but the one I'm struggling with is the fact you have a player with size 14 and she stepped on a player's foot and broke their toe. Maybe just keep them away from each other.
I know that. Thankfully, that was early on in the year.
Yeah, no, survived until now. Yeah, great, interesting take on the team, and I appreciate it. This is your alma mater. I mean, you've been coaching this team now for 10 years. To see it kind of emerge, as it were, back into the conversation. It's kind of been a bit of a roller coaster, maybe a little bit of a lull for a while, but since you've taken over, it's been consistent. It's been double-digit wins. What's this mean as being your alma mater to get this program to where it is now?
Yeah, I clearly love it here. I'm a proud alum, always was, even before I started here, coaching wise, but we have a really, really loyal alum base, that, still are in the area. And even if they're not, they're coming out to a game in California when we were there, or they're coming in Nashville. We have someone everywhere. So our alum base is huge. So it means the world to me to not only be able to coach at a place that I played at for 4 years and really had a great experience and have made some of, the best of friends and memories here. And I want to give that same thing to my student athletes. And so, for us to be on a, doing really well program wise, means the world to me.
We should point out a couple things there that I know we don't really have talked about this, and we didn't talk about it with him very much. Your brothers, right, with Greg Dunn, who is the longtime head coach at Brockport and also another Nazareth All-American.
Yeah.
He's a member of the Hall of Fame there as well. Kind of an interesting dynamic there, because Greg's all kind of full of energy and fiery and stuff. I watched him. You seem to be the maybe the yang to that.
No, Greg and I are very similar in a lot of ways. We have four siblings in our family, and I'd say we are very similar. I will say he's maybe a little bit more outspoken at times than I am, especially on the sidelines. But no, we're very similar in that case. And Greg's a great mentor to me, and to have him, 5 minutes away, and he's retired from coaching, which, he misses it a lot, but he's able to be at his kids' stuff a lot more. And as us coaches know, that sometimes takes a back seat at times. And, his son's on the #1 team in the state right now for basketball, and he's able to be at all of his things. But with him not coaching, he's able to kind of be at a little bit more of my stuff and watch a little bit more while he's still watching his alma mater, the men's side, with watching their games, and then also watching the Brockport games. That he's just a good person to chat with.
Yeah, it's just wild, that connection. By the way, we're hiding it on this camera shot. You can see it on the other. You talk about alumni base. There's the Nazareth jersey hiding over there. That is the number that Van Gundy wore when he was at Nazareth. And there isn't a single person I have talked to, whether on air, off air, chatting with, texting, whatever, that says whenever they talk about Van Gundy, they immediately start saying, "Oh yeah, I just talked to him recently," or "Yeah, he did this," or he was following the Nazareth game the other night." And I sit there going, "How?" Like, that's got to be an amazing connection that this school has, and it goes for you as well.
It is, yeah. Jeff is the nicest guy you will meet. He is super, he's a super loyal and proud NAS supporter. We got to see him a couple months ago in California when we were there for 2 games. He brought us out to a game and got us a suite and got us courtside, and he is. It's crazy to think about, he's so busy in the NBA world and in his own stuff. And, I shot him a text a couple weeks ago. Our team wasn't shooting that good, and I just wanted to get someone else's perspective. And on a Saturday night, on a night that he played, he texted me back within 5 minutes, paragraph after paragraph. And everything he wrote, you're sitting there being like, this is why you are a professional. Because it was so inspiring and very motivating. But also personal, knows our team stats and our girls' names and our schedule. So to have that type of support from someone on such a big stage is huge and very rare.
It's certainly impressive. Remind me, he's Clippers' assistant now, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because he's had so many roles in the sport. My brain still has him as a broadcaster. I keep forgetting.
I wish he was because I loved listening to him.
I forgot he went back into coaching. And of course his brother Stan has been a part of this as well. By the way, Pipeline to the Pros, folks, that is over my shoulder as well. Great book about Division III in the NBA. Has a lot about the Van Gundys. It is worth reading. Kelly, before I let you go, this looks like you got to win to get in. Right? This doesn't look like a bubble opportunity. How do you approach that with the team? How do you have that conversation, being honest with them while at the same time coupling it with not putting too much pressure?
That's always the goal. I don't ever kind of rely on that. I very rarely even look at our NPI, as bad as that is, just because I just think that that's the goal no matter what. Last year, our conference was a 2-bid conference with Geneseo and Brockport, but that hasn't happened in a long time in our conference. So the goal is always to just get the automatic bid. Don't rely on other things. Don't rely on other people. We were that same way with our conference too. It was like, oh, if this person, it's like, don't worry about that stuff. That's kind of all background noise, and just go in and take each game one at a time. We got to win Saturday first. That's the first thing. And then, the rest will play out.
Falls into place, as they say. Kelly, thanks so much for your time and insight. Really appreciate it. As always, we give the guests, though, the final word, because who knows? Maybe we didn't cover something. So final thoughts, anybody tuned in?
First and foremost, I just want to do a quick plug to my assistant coaches and my managers. We would not be surviving any season without them. I have a fantastic staff that I've had for years, which is rare at the Division III level. I think you have a lot of turnover with that, but we have loyal alums that are on our staff, but then also just people that want to be a part of it, and then our managers too. And then second of all, I'd love to, just thank you for having me and showcasing Nazareth and the Empire 8 on your show, and everything that you do for our sport on the women's and the men's side. I think you do such a great job. And, I know you have some loyal listeners here just at Naz with Derek Cahill, which I'm sure he is watching this right now, and Kevin Broderick, and then, all my brothers as well that I know that are all watching. So
all of your brothers?
I'm sure. One's on my staff, one's my assistant, and he's our X's and O's guy, so I know he's watching this.
Don't give it away, Coach. Don't give it away.
Yeah, Greg tunes into, and then my brother Rich, he's busy saving lives, but he's just as into it as well. So I thank you for everything that you do for our sport. It means the world, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
I appreciate it, Kelly. By the way, the fact that you survived with all those brothers, good on you. Take care. Tell Greg at least I said hello. I think I've got his number still, but I haven't bugged him. But I missed our chats as well. But thank you so much for coming on, chatting about Nazareth and the conference and everything in between, and even outside. Good luck the rest of the way here, and hopefully we're talking about you in March.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Kelly Dunn-Romig joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Quick update. If you're curious, Nazareth will play Alfred. Brockport's hosting Elmira. Houghton is hosting St. John Fisher, and Geneseo, Russell Sage. in the tournament that starts on Saturday in the Empire 8. A lot more conference tournaments starting this weekend now. I kind of like it. Spreads it out a little bit, makes it a little bit less chaotic for the student athletes, even if it reduces the regular season by a smidge. When we come back, we got some questions to answer. We'll talk about tonight's Super Show with the committee chairs and whatnot on the top 16s. And I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting that I've got to cover that we'll talk about as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA studios. More after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. As we wrap up, put a bow on this show. And don't forget, 7 o'clock tonight, we will have our next edition of Hoopsville. It'll be our top 16s broadcast, and we'll have the committee chairs on the show. Send us your questions, hoopsville at d3sports.com. That's hoopsville at d3sports.com. We'll get those questions possibly answered. I saw one email came in with a couple of questions. We'll give it a perusal and see. Others have come up with questions. We'll get them ready as well. Also, a reminder, support our work here on the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville. That's buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville. We got a QR code on the screen at all times. There's a bigger version for you at home who may be watching us live or on the archive. Sign up for Role Player or Hire. You'll get a look at my top 25 ballot, which reminds me, I got to go publish that thing. It has been, I kid you not, I had it done Monday night, which I've never had it done that early. I'm like, oh, all I got to do is send this tomorrow. Well, my wife had a small procedure that I wanted to help, well, not wanted to help with, I had to help with. So it made for a busy Tuesday, but even as I was sitting next to her at home afterward, I forgot to publish it. And then we ran into, well, maybe I have published this. Oh, I said I haven't published. This is how tired I am this week. It's been published. It's been sitting there for a while now. Ha! No, that's the double take. No, I'm right. Yeah, here we go. So we will publish that there momentarily. This has been sitting there ready to go for a while, and Dum here totally forgot to hit publish. So I will type a little note here. This has been done since late Monday night, but I kept forgetting to publish it. I apologize for the delay. So this is going out to Hoopsville members at buymeacoffee.com. Role player or higher, get access to it. It'll even get emailed to you. It is out the door to those who are watching or who are part of that membership. I very much appreciate it. And it's done and dusted. And now we're back on the camera shot as well. You get to see my top 25 as it was for this week's poll. A reminder, we've got our top 25 double take show that is also available right now still to Hoopsville members. By the end of today, we will put that public to the rest of the audience. But as a Hoopsville member, you get live access to that show, and you get early access on the archive to that show and podcast edition. Now it'll be available to everybody later this evening, and we do that at different times. And then Monday, we'll do the same thing. So Monday, we'll have our regular show at noon, followed by our double take at 8:30. Maybe our last double take show of the season, because the final one, debating if we do one on Tuesday, a double take that's really looking ahead at the NCAA tournament. And then end of the season, there's no reason to double take any of the rankings. Why would we talk about a dubious team when they have no ability to do anything about that post tournament and all that? So a reminder again, 7 o'clock tonight, we have our top 16 show. We'll talk to the committee chairs. Scott Peterson on the women's side, Matt Snyder on the men's side will come on to then talk about the breakdown, teams to watch, bid thieves to be concerned about, conference races that are going to be interesting, teams that may look locked that aren't locked. Who could end up in the top 16 in reality, even if today's numbers say X. We'll have that conversation plus the committee chairs. Then next Monday, we're back on with our normal show at 12 Eastern, top 25 show at 8:30. The next Thursday, a week from today, we'll be on the air at 12 Eastern time with another Hoopsville show. Then we're working on our Selection Sunday show. I have to work the bulk of the day ahead of that, but we'll have our selection show, which obviously isn't a selection show, but we like to start breaking things down. We'll do that Sunday evening. Then on Monday, I am planning March 2nd, a 4 p.m. show live to start looking at the brackets now that they've come out. Men's bracket gets released at 1 Eastern on March 2nd. Women's bracket at 2:30 Eastern time, March 2nd. We will go on the air at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll have the committee chairs yet again talking about the actual brackets that got put together. And we're already working on things like what that bracket could mean, what the toughest part of the bracket could be, et cetera, et cetera. We got a question on, was it Twitter? I think it was Twitter. Where did I see the question? Maybe it was on the live stream. It was. Sorry. Wisconsin fan says Lawrence and Knox women going to be playing twice in a row. Who has the edge in that matchup, knowing their only path is the AQ? How much they play your starters, show your hand. So here's the trick. I thought it might come down to seeding, but that's irrelevant. I'm pretty sure the second game will be at Lawrence no matter what. And the reason I say that is, if Knox beats Lawrence, then they split. You go to the tiebreakers. The tiebreakers in the Midwest Conference start at the top of the conference, like most do. Everybody's lost to Ripon, so that's out. Then you run into Lawrence and Knox, so you take that out. So then you run into Cornell, and Cornell, Lawrence is beaten twice, Knox split. So I don't think that the outcome determines anything for the next game. So with that in mind, it does change that question. So it's a good one. I was going to say, if you're still up for seeding, who's going to be home, who's going to be away in that next game, I'd argue you got to put your chips in because you want to be playing at home. That's off the table. You know you're going to, if you're Knox, you know you're going to Lawrence. If you're Lawrence, you know you're staying home. In that case, I think this becomes rather interesting, right? Neither team, we'll double check it here. It's a great question. I want to double check Scott's information on his D3 Stat Lab, or the D3 Stat Lab website. He's got the Midwest Conference as Rippon's in, because they're 22nd ranked, and then Rice. Lawrence and Knox on the outside looking in. So winning or losing this Saturday means nothing in terms of whether you get into the tournament. Like, you're not trying to set up a possible at-large possibility. I think, yeah, that's a great question. I could argue both sides of this. I could argue you go at it like it's a normal game so that you don't get out of sync. You don't want to get fancy. You don't want to get cute. You don't want to get starters not being in sequence. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that, so that when you play the next game, you're not your normal self, right? I think that's a big part of it. Routines and what you're used to. If it's a competitive game, right, and your starters are sitting on the bench because you're trying not to injure them, they're probably getting a little frustrated because they're not playing, and then they're a little bit out of sorts the next time they play. They're not in that pressure pack. They didn't face the opponent in that close game. The flip of that is you could get hurt, and that's going to impact the game. I'll be honest with you. Chicago, from what I'm hearing, men's basketball's got some problems. One of their best players seems like I could be wrong. I have not talked to Mike McGrath or anybody at Chicago about this, but it seems like they're going to be playing without their best player for the rest of the regular season, which for them is 2 games this Saturday, 1 game next week. Remember, there is no tournament in the UAA. They're all playing for the AQ. Chicago's going to make the tournament no matter what, but whether they're hosting games or where they are in a bracket becomes a bit of a conversation. Does it not? Sorry, give me a second. I went to the wrong Chicago page. I was trying to cheat and get around a couple of things, and I just went to the wrong darn page. So they're playing Brandeis and NYU this weekend, and it seems they're going to be without Eamon Kana. He played against Case Western, finished with 15 points in 30 minutes. That was a Case Western game that was over, 93-74. And from what I'm hearing, he did not play in the Carnegie Mellon game because apparently he got hurt in the mopping up time against Case Western Reserve. They beat him by 19, but that game probably wasn't even that close. And it sounds like Kana got hurt in that game and may be out for the rest of the regular season. So here's back to the Lawrence Knox question. If you're playing and a player gets hurt in a game that's meaningless, you're probably kicking yourself for the next game, right? But then the other side of that coin, you're talking about making sure your players are ready, in sync, things are going well for that next game. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think you go into it and see where the game goes. I don't think you come out with a plan. I don't think you go in the plan going, we're not playing players X amount of minutes. We're not going in playing this to the nth degree. We're going in and seeing where the first half takes us, and we'll make decisions in the second half on what we need to do. Maybe both teams just throw it in and don't worry about it. Maybe both teams decide to play it out, because for one of them, it's senior day, right? Most likely it's senior day for either Lawrence or Knox. The game is at Lawrence, so I'm going to guess it's their senior day. So there's some emotion to that. That's a great question. I think it's tough. I could argue both sides. I'm towards the edge of go play it straight, and if some point this game is not relevant to try and keep pushing, then pull your starters. The last time these two teams faced off was back in early December, and Lake Forest won it by 15. There isn't a lot on the line. It's a great question. Yeah, I say see where the first half takes you, and then play the second half as you see fit. That's a tough one. Good question though. Really, really good question. Let's see. I thought there was another question. Let me check the email here very quickly. We were talking about tiebreakers there, and that is going to get me. Oh, there we go. Huh. Nope. The question was for committee chairs tonight. Does get me to tiebreakers in my 2 cents. I'm a little frustrated. I get that finding tiebreakers in a conference that are going to be something everybody likes is difficult at best, right? At some point, you're going to tick people off. And I've been close to this because Johns Hopkins and Gettysburg women's basketball over the last, 3 years, I think it is, have played to a coin flip. And I mean that in all seriousness. Last year, it came down to a coin flip. They both finished 13-1 in conference. The year before, they both were 1 losses in conference. So they played different wins. And at one point, they were going to take the winning percentage. And then that was a smart idea not to. Hopkins again won the coin flip. That was 23-24. In 22-23, it wasn't the same. Hopkins had them by 1. 21-22, Gettysburg had them by 1 in the win column. And 2021, there wasn't a season. I'm going back 1920. It wasn't relevant. So, yeah, each of the last 2 seasons, if not 3, they came down to a coin flip because basically what happens is they both split against each other, beat everybody else in the conference. So then they start going through the tiebreakers, and they couldn't determine, and it got down to a coin flip. Coin flip's obviously not ideal. You'd like to solve it before then. Way back in the day, and I am dating myself hugely, the old Capital Athletic Conference used to do it where you pulled a number at the beginning of the academic year. So if Salisbury picked a 2 and Catholic picked a 7, then if you got that far in the tiebreaker, every single time, if it was between Salisbury and Catholic, or Salisbury anybody other than number 1, Salisbury won the tiebreaker because they had pulled the number 2. Or let's say they pulled the number 1. Let's say Salisbury pulled the number 1. That means for every sport that the tiebreakers couldn't get to figure out a winner and they had to go to the draw, Salisbury was going to win. And so they thought, well, that's not fair. And I think they eventually changed that to a per sport basis. So you basically pulled a number per sport. Kind of like a coin flip, except if you have multiple teams, instead of playing this multiple coin flip thing, you already have a number that determins it. Not ideal, but it's not bad, but it also isn't across the board for all sport. It could be different. Salisbury could be number 1 in men's basketball, but number 7 in women's basketball. A lot of people have gone to the coin flip. Again, not ideal. Some have come up with some good ideas. The one that ticks me off, though, there's a couple. One of them is using the NPI. And you're probably like, well, why not? It's a great metric. You can see who's got the better NPI. But the NPI in a lot of conferences is based on the non-conference schedule, right? If you play everybody once or even everybody twice, even if you play an off balance, your NPI has been dictated by other things. Your NPI has been dictated by how other teams' results outside of conference have been played out. Your NPI in an unbalanced conference schedule is based on how the conference scheduled that year. Your NPI is based, or you lose the NPI because your opponent went and played one better team than you did out of conference. You're determining the conference standings by an out of conference metric for the most part. I don't like it. I don't think that's fair. I think that's worse than the number poll. That's worse than a coin flip. You're basically saying, well, because they scheduled better, they're going to be the host, even though their schedule had nothing to do with why we're tied in the conference standings. And I get you got to go to it. Centennial Conference has gone to this, and it's lousy. It's plain old lousy. Now, there's some other options. Some conferences have gone to we talked about this on the last show, went to the last 8 games of the regular season. In what conference is that? ARC, the American Rivers Conference. Wartburg is going to win that tiebreaker on the women's side because they beat Co in the final 8 games of the regular season. Now, the idea of the last 8 games is supposedly who's playing best in the final 8. Okay. But when it's one loss between the 2 teams, and that's it, like a Gettysburg-Hopkins scenario, and they've only beaten each other, then the last 8 comes down to when the conference scheduled those games. If that Wartburg Co game got played 2 games prior, it's a non-factor. If both games were in the final 8, it's a non-factor. If the wins were flipped, it becomes in Co's favor. I don't think that's fair either. Maybe the last 8 can be used when you need to break a tie for more than just a split of the regular season between two teams. But then again, you may have not even gotten to the last 8 because something else would have broken it. I kind of like point differential. Now, this has got its flaws too, and I'm not talking point differential across the board in the conference, because from what I'm told in the Centennial, that was brought up and coaches were worried about running up the score. I'm talking about point differential between the two opponents. So let's go back to Centennial. Hopkins and Gettysburg men's basketball. Let's just take that. It's not relevant because Gettysburg is the number 1 seed, but let's say they finish tied. And you eventually get down to point differential, and you look at it, and Hopkins beat Gettysburg by 2, and Gettysburg beat Hopkins by 2. Point differential is X'd out. I think that'll happen rarely. You can put something after, maybe other factors after that, but I think at some point that'll be different. If one game's a 5-point game and one game's a 2-point game, then it's a +3 to whatever team. I don't think you get run-ups of scores in those scenarios because those two teams are facing each other in the moment. Most likely these tiebreakers, they've got other things in their heads when that game is taking place. They're not sitting there going, okay, listen, if we beat X by 20 tonight, it'll give us some cushion the next time we face them, because this game in December, we don't know what it's going to mean come the end of February. Or even if the game is the end of February, they're looking at it, they're like, well, we got to run up the score more. Do you really think their opponent's going to let them? Because if we're in this tiebreaker scenario with these two teams, they're evenly matched. If they're evenly matched, I can't imagine a point differential gets away from it. But then you can also put a cap. You can say point differential up to 15 points, up to 20 points. After that, we don't count it. So if you beat an opponent by 15 and you beat an opponent by 20, but the cap is 15, then it's just 15 for everybody. I just wish we would come up with some more creative ideas than using NPI or anything where the teams don't have any control over it. They don't have control over this conference scheduling for the most part. And God forbid you have weather delays that change what that last 8 game was for Team A versus Team B because you had to change things around on the schedule. Or God forbid there be forfeits like with Wentworth women's basketball or Pitt Bradford men's basketball, where you've got forfeits now in play. That last 8 gets really squirrely. I don't like NPI. I don't like the last 8. I kind of like point differential against the 2. And if you have to, maybe the other part of it is you cap the point differential at only like the top half of the conference, and you don't consider the bottom half. So if you're going at it for point differential in totality in the conference, you don't even include the teams that are not relevant to this conversation. If it's a middle of the pack, maybe it's a +2 or 3 above and +2 or 3 below. Like you find a window where that point differential actually matters. Or common opponents. If you want to go that way, you could take common opponents. You start at the top and it's X. All right, we go through, we can't break it up. All right, let's go back to the top. What's the point differential against the top team? Now, you could argue this is where things could get run up. Fine, put the cap in place. So they lost by 18 to the top team. They lost by 15. Then the team that lost by 15 gets it. I think there's just better ways to do these tiebreakers. And I get it. I'm on the outside looking in. I get it. A lot of times this is because coaches are sitting there clamoring for whatever, and we don't want a tiebreaker. We don't want a coin flip. Get away from the NPI, please. Get away from the SOS when they used to use it. It's not fair to have a conference decision based on a non-conference result, or scheduling, or other things that are outside of everybody's control, or don't have anything to do with the conference. I don't like the last 8. There's too many ways that can be a disadvantage to somebody. Because here's the deal. If Co knows it's the last 8, well, and they go and win it, then it's irrelevant because they won both against Wartburg. Like, let's find a better way to do this. Point differential against the 2 matched up. If that's a tie, then go point differential maybe from the top down, or go point differential for the top half of the conference. Go point differential where there's a cap on the number, something like that we can at least get a little bit more of a legitimate answer to things. I think that's going to be a better tactic. Just my 2 cents. There you go. Any final questions before we wrap this one up? Because I'm late and I got to get ready for the 7 p.m. show because that one is going to make a difference. Jimmy Casca, who's in the WIAC, by the way, had a really funny tweet. He's gone deeper into this since, but his original tweet, and I had liked it earlier in the show. Bear with me. I have to go find. Doing this 16 outcome tiebreaker scenario for WIAC men's basketball has already have a coin flip situation in one of the 16 possible outcomes for a 4-5 seed, but still 5 teams with one game of each other. What a mess. And I suck at math. And then he went into some other things. He's gone a little bit deeper into this rabbit hole. Bob Quillman says men's basketball projection has 2 Skyline teams in. So take this projector guy's projection with a grain of salt, just saying. I'm not sure what, yeah, I'm not sure. I probably shouldn't have read that one. I went through lunch going through the tiebreakers for all 16 possible outcomes in the WIAC men's basketball Saturday. He literally puts out an entire table on here, and he's right. It's an absolute mess. That WIAC is just so WIAC-y. Here we go. So here's the WIAC tiebreakers, okay? Head-to-head competition between the tied teams, cumulative win-loss record versus teams placed higher in the conference standings. Record versus teams in conference standings in descending order. So before that, you go with cumulative win-loss record versus teams placed higher. Oh, I'm sorry. You're looking at who's higher in the conference standings, what's your cumulative against that. Yeah. You'll move on from that. Record versus teams in conference standings in descending order. Then teams with the best road record in conference games. I like that one. It may not solve things here because you're going to get to a coin toss. But teams with the best road wins in conference games. I like that one. That's a good one. Hey, WIAC, tip of the hat. That's a good tiebreaker there. It still may not get you there, but road wins at least puts it in the hand of the team who's traveling to pull off wins. If they're giving them up at home, that means they're giving up a tiebreaker to another. I like that one. That's a good one. And it puts it in the team's hands because it's just you're saying road wins. Plain and simple. Not last 8, not last 4, not last half. Just road wins. That's a good one. That's a very good one. All right, with that in mind, I think we're a wrap. I'm double checking my email quickly. We got to get ready for the 7 p.m. show, and me talking here just means I'm dragging that out, and we don't want to drag that out. Appreciate you all tuning in. It's been a great show. Great conversations with both St. Joseph coaches, St. Joseph of Maine, Tyler Ackley, and St. Joseph's of Connecticut, Glenn Miller. Want to thank Kent Dernbach for an absolutely fascinating conversation about Stevens Point and the WIAC. We have not had a Stevens Point guest on this show since Kent was the interim head coach when that entire fiasco with Bob Semling and everything else started to unravel. We had Kent on the show about being the interim head coach. We've had him on the show when he was at La Crosse, but we have not had a Stevens Point guest on since. Great to talk to Kent about that and really what he's building back. He didn't talk a lot about that rebuild. But folks, that rebuild was big on Stevens Point end because coaches were using that against them and they were losing the recruiting wars. That's what happened to Stevens Point. And now that Kent's back and things have settled and they can put that officially in the past, though interesting enough, Kent was on staff when that last scandal broke. He was insulated from that, and they're now clearly are back to what they're used to doing. And he's right. They haven't gotten to what they've been doing the last 4 decades, and time's maybe running out, but they're at least heading in the right direction. Transylvania women's basketball, great conversation with Hannah Klein there, and then Nazareth women's basketball, a wonderful conversation with Kelly Dunn Romig. By the way, Kelly, amazing family there in the Dunn family. Again, tonight, both committee chairs will be on the show to talk about the top 16s as they sit now, bracketing, answering your questions and whatnot. Then Scott Peterson and Matt Snyder will be on the show breaking down bid thieves and teams to look out for and all of that in the final 10 days of the season. I'm really looking forward to this show, which is we've massaged since revealing the top 16s. We'll still talk top 16s. We'll show them, but that should be a great conversation with them. Looking forward to it. Email us your questions, hoopsville@d3sports.com. Then Monday, noon Eastern, as we normally are, 8:30 with top 25. Then next Thursday, noon Eastern as well. And we'll get you the schedule for what Selection Sunday and Bracket Monday. Bracket Monday. I'll get it out. I think we call it the Bracket Breakdown, but we'll talk about those shows in the near future. A reminder again, buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville. That's buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville to support our work here on the show. Sign up, become a Hoopsville member, role player or higher. The Off-Court Podcast, we're getting our ducks in a row. I know I've said that for a little bit. I apologize. We are getting our ducks in a row to get that rolling here soon, and I appreciate your patience with it. So please support our efforts here and our continued efforts into the future. And with that, we'll sign off. Thanks to all of our guests. Thanks to the sports information departments there as well for their support. Thanks to our friends at D3Hoops.com and the Women's Basketball Coaches Association for their assistance and support. And you've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA studios. If you want to talk Division III basketball, you've got to watch Hoopsville. We'll see you back here tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern.